Hey everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have spaced out radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. spacedoutradio.com, shop there today, and make yourself look good.
Welcome, everybody. Spaced Out Radio, After Hours Radio Show. You have tuned in. I am Mr. Rob G, getting it in for you guys tonight as we have an awesome show planned for you. We have the UFO twins, and it's gonna. I mean, they're identical. It's insane when you see this. But I'm looking forward to jumping in and getting into some good stuff, hearing about some good stories here. And let me go ahead and hop in the chat and see who we have jumping in first. Who gets the medal positions here tonight? Let's take a look. Yeah, Race Fan gets the gold for the night. We got Road Blair with the silver, saying hi, guys. We got Paul Holland with the bronze coming in, saying hi, Rob. Hi, Paul Holland. And let's see, let's get to as many people as we can here before we get this show going tonight. We got Mel WD40. You already know what time it is, Mel. Mel getting his lube out ready to get into the show. Appreciate you showing on up. We have, moving down the list here, Jessica S. I see her. Jessica S. is here. I miss Rob G. Moz and Chatter. Say Jessica S. Got about a minute left before we get the show started. So actually, let me go ahead and get the radio side, the podcast side going. All right, welcome to Spaced Out Radio. To all our podcast listeners, Mr. Rob G. We're going to get ready to jump into tonight's show in just a moment here as we are continuing to welcome a few more guests here. We have Lars Jansen coming in saying good morning all, and Gory Tiger saying what's up. We got Eternity Eternal. Hey, Eternity Eternal, thanks for coming in. Yep, Miss Catherine Jones is here saying, hey, Mr. Rob G. Hey, Miss Catherine. We got Corey saying, you the man, Mr. Rob G. Thanks for all you do. Appreciate you, Corey. Thanks for coming on in tonight. And let's see, what else do we have? Magneticus Attractor saying he'll take last place. Okay, I see. Doug Shelby in the building. Carl Bittner. Ash Scutches. Jay, as we get ready to jump into the radio side of this here. Yeah, we got about 29 seconds here. So I think that's everybody. Actually, I think we actually got to everybody pretty quick. Okay, great. So as we get ready to jump into the radio side of this, can't wait. Yeah, the opening song rocks. Yeah, that fits me, right? That's me all day. All right, here we go. Let's get ready. Greetings, space travelers. Welcome home. You just tuned your dial to Spaced Out Radio, the only place where you can own the night. I am your host, Mr. Rob G, and we're broadcasting to you on our terrestrial affiliates across North America, plus digitally on digital platforms all around the world. Remember, you can access our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Don't forget to follow us on X and Instagram at Spaced Out Radio, at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where the options are endless. You can stay up to date with the SOR Newswire, get some official Spaced Out swag, plus rock out to some Bumblefoot, and so much more. We're going to have an awesome show tonight. As I said before, we got the UFO twins joining us here. We're going to be jumping into all sorts of stuff, alien races, hybridization, just a long list of things here. And we're not going to delay any. We're going to go ahead and bring our guests in for the night here. And let me go ahead and bring them in. As you guys, please welcome them, give them a warm welcome as we do this. We have Earlene and Shirlene.
Hi,
How
Rob.
are you? Hi.
Rob.
UFO twins. That is so awesome. You guys are just spitting images of each other. I met you guys prior to this, and we were in a experiences of color collective meeting, and I was sitting there. I thought I was looking at the double screen initially. I was like, why is she on two different screens? And then I realized, wow, you guys are twins. So that's so awesome.
We don't see ourselves as looking that much alike anymore, but thank you.
My, you guys are spitting images. Yeah, definitely. So I wanted to go ahead and welcome you guys first of all, and kind of get into this. I know I've seen you speak on some of your experiences before, and it gets deep. But I did want to just start off with, for the both of you, I guess you could go either one first. What brought you to this point? Like when you were growing up, did you experience any sort of activity, UFOs, paranormal, if you wouldn't mind? Either one of you could start there.
Well, it probably would be me to start because I think it began with me. Actually, I know it began with me. I held an interest in ufology and UFOs, anything as far as the fact that there might be intelligent life in the universe outside of our planet. So I just remember back when we were in elementary school back then, you had to go to the library to write a paper and do your research in encyclopedias. So I flipped through the black and white encyclopedia, found a picture of what they called at that time a flying saucer. And so I was so fascinated. I mean, I was just mesmerized, literally. And I just fathomed, life beyond this planet. And so, that kind of, I dropped that as far as that was concerned, that incident. And then, grew up and got married, and still had an interest in a psychic phenomenon, spirituality, of course, ufology. I amassed a huge library of books on the subject. I studied everything I could get my hands on, and all of the early events with like the Project Blue Book and Project Grudge, and the earlier government investigations of UFOs, because I knew that they were investigating this phenomenon, but I knew also, even at that time, they didn't want the public to know. And that's always just been issue with me. I just don't like not knowing. Whatever they don't want me to know, I want to know. So that's where it really began for me, and just studying and reading other. Then I read a lot of other personal accounts, like the Betty Andreasson affair, the Betty and Barney Hill story, a Stranger at the Pentagon, which I'm sure you recognize some of those names, and it just grew from there. I have a library of over 50 books on the subject. And now, at the same time, Shirlene didn't really have that much, if any, interest in the subject at all. We were living apart. I was living in Dallas, Texas. By the time I'm bringing us up to date now, I moved to Dallas. Shirlene lived in Kansas City. And we were both married, but she got divorced and moved to Dallas to be near me. But when she was in Kansas City, I'd share stories that I read about people's abductions and encounters. And she would politely listen and say, oh, that's interesting. But as I'm sure she's going to tell you, she just felt that was something that really would never happen to her. But so what we really think, Rob, was going on is, we both had our respective roles to play in this. I was the researcher and she was the experiencer, because I don't think I was ready to experience some of the things you're going to hear her share with you. I was just scared. I'll be honest with you. I wasn't ready to meet any ETs, but I loved it. Was like a great mystery book reading about it. I couldn't put the book down, the subject down. But then Shirlene, when she came to Dallas, she started actually having interactions with extraterrestrials. So Shirley, I'll let you pick it up.
Okay, and thank you for having us on the show. We're really excited to be here. As my sister said, I moved after being in a marriage of 23 years, and finding out later down the road we weren't compatible. I knew I had to leave. I had to leave the marriage. It's like my soul kept saying, "You have to leave." I felt like I wouldn't survive it, because we weren't vibrationally aligned in any sort of way that I can think of now. And I don't think I would have been as comfortable talking to him about what later would transpire with my ET experiences. So I left the marriage in 1995 and moved. I was living in a suburb in Overland Park, Kansas, a suburb of Kansas City. And so I packed my Volvo. At the time I had a Volvo, and threw everything in the back seat and the trunk and everything I could get in the car, and just hit the road. And I was scared. I didn't know. I was married 23 years, got married when I
yeah, I'm there with you. Yeah, I had a camera malfunction. I'm there with you.
Okay. And I just knew I had to leave. I was just horrible. I was not happy. And I knew something was pushing me to move. Something was urging me to do something else. There was something I needed to do, but I never knew what it was. I had no idea. Outside of, we raised our children and they were grown and in college and gone from the home. But I knew there was something more I needed to do. And I never in a million years would have guessed it would be involving going out of space, going on UFOs and traversing the galaxy, interacting with multiple types of entities and experiencing that. And then later talking about it. I could not have ever saw that coming. But again, my sister was interested in the subject. She would tell me about it. And if I could, I'd go get a book or something she recommended reading. And I read it and hear some other accounts. But I didn't think it would ever happen to me. That's the kind of thing that happens to other people, is the way I thought. So, and then in 1995, I moved here to Dallas, and my sister and I reconnected, and we got to know each other, and we would hang out, and we'd go shopping, and we would just kind of getting to, like I said, know each other again. We always have been, but I shouldn't say, it sounds like we never knew each other. We were not reunited in that way. We've always lived in different cities pretty much, but we got to be together again and get to know each other on that level. And so that was great. And I needed that support because I was going through a divorce. and Earlene was excellent to help me. And I didn't know that she was going to become an expert by reading all these books about UFOs. And I feel like we were meant to do this. Our job was our mission, we later realized, was to have these experiences and later share them with the world. So that's how it all started. So I can share with you the night. I have a kind of an outline of what you might want to hear about as it relates. It kind of goes with our book, but that is how it all started.
That is awesome. So, and it's initially, I'm sure on the surface of it, everyone would have thought, okay, the twins, they took the exact same path to get here, but it couldn't be any different, right? So,
right.
Earlene has jumped in it early on, and that's kind of what happens when you get exposed to it. You kind of jump down that rabbit hole and start trying to read everything and research, because it's just so mind-blowing what it is you are confronting. Exactly. For me, I just started recently. My first experience only goes back 2 years, almost to the day. August 28th will be 2 years. And so I'm in the process you were in initially. That's kind of where I'm at now, where I'm diving in. But I'm just blessed to be able to talk to a lot of people who have had experiences. So it's kind of giving me like a speed rush course into what it is, the phenomena is. So that's awesome. And yeah, I would like to know what would have been like the first experience that you had. Like, were you taken, or what exactly happened, if you wouldn't mind?
Oh, sure. The first trip, after being here in Dallas for a little while and getting my new apartment, and I was really excited. I hadn't been on my own my entire life, and then getting to know the city, getting lost half the time, and calling my sister, where is what's and I don't think we even had back in 90. I don't think we had MapQuest or anything like that. But I got lost a lot. So anyway, I just started living my life. I decided, oh, well, I'm free. I'm one of those persons who was happy to be divorced. I wasn't sad, but I was very happy to be free and to be living my own life on my own terms. As I said, I got married very young. So I was living my life, and I'm talking to a girlfriend one night on the telephone. We are from Wichita, Kansas originally. And I was talking to a girlfriend from Wichita, Kansas, and she and I used to go to the same church when we were living in Wichita. And so she was she was engaged, and her fiance broke up the engagement, and she was just wrought. She was hurt. And she and I were talking one Saturday night, October of 95. And so she talked about her pending divorce. And I was on a whole nother level. I was on a high vibrational level. I was so happy. I was telling her, you're free now. At least you learned about whatever was wrong before you got married. Life going to hold a lot of wonderful things for you.
Pending engagement.
Pending engagement, thank you. And life is going to hold a lot of wonderful experiences. So just keep your faith and believe that everything's going to work out. Everything's going to be okay. So that was a Saturday night. And she felt so much better. She felt lifted, so to speak. And she was just comforted. So with my words, and because I was going through the divorce, and I was good with it. I was happy with it. And so she got a little bit more higher vibrational feeling around the whole experience. We ended our call. I went to bed. We talked about going to meeting at church that morning, but that just didn't work out. But so I went to bed, and I will never forget that I woke up in the middle of the night, probably about 1:15, and I found myself on a UFO traversing the galaxy. And it was so awesome. I cannot describe the beauty of the galaxy. I saw triangular shaped vehicles dashing here and dashing there and just going all over the place. And they seemed to have a knowledge of where they were going, because they never hit each other. I thought that, well, if we were going that fast certainly on the street, we'd have all kinds of crashes, but they never crashed. And they would come close to our ship, and they'd veer right off into another direction. So almost like they had a mind of their own. I'm sure they were geared. They were handled by advanced beings that knew how to handle a UFO. I didn't know what the heck was going on. It was kind of a shock at first, but I didn't get to see the entities. They wouldn't allow me to actually see them, but I sensed they were around me in the ship. And in the ship, I could see out a window that circled. I don't know if it went all the way around, but pretty much from what I was looking at, it went a long way around, and I could look out, and we would. We looked like we were approaching New York City at one point, because they had such tall buildings. And I was looking at something that looked like it was the monitor was gray, and the lines looked like something. If you can remember the old, I know I'm dating us, but the old Etch-a-Sketch games. That's what I was looking at, because it had all these buildings, but it was just amazing, almost three-dimensional looking, with buildings behind buildings behind buildings. And they didn't speak to me, but for some reason, my ex-husband appeared in that experience. And I think they brought him in just to comfort me, because I was very kind of surprised. And he started to take over, like, where are we going? What's happening? What's going on? Blah, 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 blah. How do I get us back to where we came from? That kind of attitude, because he was very strong, and he's the kind of person that was very controlling and strong in his own character. And they would not answer his questions, obviously. So anyway, that experience ultimately ended. And so I woke up in my bed about, I think it was around 2 or 3 that morning. And I knew I had just been in the galaxy, but all of a sudden I'm here in my bed, and I didn't understand how I got out there and then how I got back. Now, other experiences I'll share with you how that transition occurs, that experience. But this first one, I didn't know. I had no idea. How did I get out of it? So when I woke up in my bed, and I realized I have not been physical, because I felt like I was just being poured back into my body, like sand in the hourglass, and I was being collected. So I know then that I was not fully physical, and they transported me in another method. I think it was astral projection, astral travel, as I look back on it. But I was feeling really odd. I felt inebriated, and I knew I hadn't had anything to drink, because I really don't drink that much. And so but I felt dizzy. I felt unbalanced. I tried to get out of the bed. I tried to make sense of everything, what is going on. It's the middle of the night. What do I do? I thought of calling my sister and telling her what occurred. And she always told me, don't call me too late and wake me up. And I listened to that. Now she tells me,
I didn't mean for something like this, Rob. This is something like life-changing.
Right.
And she doesn't call me that night.
No, I don't call her, because she told me not to call her.
Yeah,
So
for mundane little things.
Oh, I just didn't want to wake her up. But so I said to them, okay, I'm now walking around the apartment, trying to figure out, okay, did somebody get in this apartment and abduct me or grab me and gave me drugs? Or I don't drink or do drugs, but I felt off balance and kind of lightheaded and just totally off. Mm-hmm. And my body felt like it wasn't all collected back, and I had to start feeling around on my body and to see if I'm still all here, my legs and feet, everything. I just knew I wasn't all. I didn't feel like I was all collected, but I found myself all back in one piece. And then I walked around and looked at the doors to see, okay, did someone get in here and break in? And all the windows were locked, all the doors were locked. So I realized nobody could have gotten in, and I'm on a higher floor, so no one could have gotten in. So I had to accept I have been abducted, and I was out there in the galaxy. It was not a dream. It was so much bigger than a dream. It was so real, very realistic. And so I knew it wasn't a dream. I decided, something told me it came out of me, and I said, I do not wish to return tonight. And I talked to them by saying that, and they heard me. I knew they were still near me, and they heard me, and they respected my choice of not wanting to return that night, because I felt like if I didn't tell them, they might come back that night. So I had to verbally say it out loud, actually, because, and then I thought, okay, should I go to the hospital? But then if I did that and told them what just occurred, I was out in a spaceship with in a UFO with some entities, they would think I'm crazy. And instead of working with me or helping me, they would probably want to put me in some kind of mental ward or psych ward. So I said, that's not really cool. So I can't call the police. I thought of calling the hospital and letting them know what just happened. What do they think I need to do? Of course, they had no basis for understanding something like that. So I realized they'll think I'm crazy, and they'll want me to come in, check me in somewhere to the hospital. And it was out of the question. So I thought, as I mentioned, I thought I called my sister. It was too late. So all I could do was go back to bed. So I went back to bed and I slept the rest of the night. And the next morning, I finally called my sister and tell her, you will never believe what happened to me last night. And I let her take it from there.
Yeah, we got about 2 minutes, a little over 2 minutes before we go to break. We take a break every 30 minutes here. So yeah, just so you know, that's the time frame.
Okay.
Yeah. So okay.
Got 2 minutes?
This is what I'll do because I know you'll want to go into some stuff and may take you past that. I just wanted to touch on what Shirlene was saying about, feeling like you were astrally traveling, because that's a question that I have, and I've asked before, because I don't know if I've been abducted. I think maybe I have, and we'll kind of get into that later. But I question if those abductions are physical abductions, or are they abductions of your consciousness, and are you actually going to these places astrally? Some people feel that they're physical. Some people feel that just their consciousness had gone aboard these ships. And so it's kind of cool that you already kind of led into that you felt that was an astral experience, because I've had dreams as well where I know where I'm at, and I'm at that place. I'm there. I'm like actually there. So I know that there's some sort of ability for, while you're sleeping, your consciousness to leave and do all these other things. And we're kind of just cracking the surface of that. Did you have anything you wanted to say about that? We got about a minute to go before we go to break.
Earlene, you want to react to?
Well, I think you should try to answer physical versus astral. That's kind of where Rob is trying to find out.
I know it's based. My experiences were based on the purpose of that abduction. So they had different reasons. So if it was, for example, if they needed me physically to examine me, then I would start out as an astral person, and then they have the ability to transfer me back into a physical. So I could go back and forth in the same experience based on what they wanted to do.
Yeah, that is so. It's so strange. I when I talk to some people, they feel like it's a little bit of both going on, and we can get in a little bit later after the break about what that really means. Some people think the governments are aware that that we're being abducted, and maybe they're in agreement with extraterrestrials and keeping track. Heard someone say, I forget what show it was recently, where they said that they think part of the agreement was the ETs are able to examine us, and then they get some sort of technology, maybe lower level technology, in exchange for that. But the deal is that they're supposed to give the government the names of the people that they are abducting. And someone in this who said this said that they may not have actually lived up to that agreement. So as we get ready to go into this break right now, I want everybody to stick around. We are just getting started right here with Earlene and Shirlene, the UFO twins, man. All sorts of experiences, abductions. We're going to talk about hybridization and all sorts of other things. You guys don't go anywhere. Right here on Spaced Out Radio. Okay, we're clear. So this is we have like we got about 5 minutes till we come back from break. So if you guys need to do anything, it'll be the time to go ahead and do it. We'll have another break in 30 minutes as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I'm good.
So yeah, so we're gonna, and obviously when we're on these breaks, because we, on YouTube we're still live,
Uh-huh.
but for radio, this would be their commercial break time, so radio won't hear any of this.
Okay.
So we usually chit chat, but don't really talk about the big stuff until we come back from break.
Right.
And then also, I know you guys have authored some books, and we'll get into those. We'll get into that in the second hour. And
Okay.
usually, back half of the second hour is where we have the
Yeah.
audience that would submit questions as well.
Okay, and I'd like to show our book too when we get there to that point.
Yes, definitely. We'll have a particular time where we'll be able to go to it, and stories that you may have in there that you can share, obviously, without giving up everything in the book. So we will do all of that, and we have about 4 minutes before we come back from break.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about your first experience, Rob? I mean, it had to have been quite earth-shattering, I would imagine.
Yeah, definitely. What we'll do is we'll save it. Ask me that
Okay.
question as soon as we come back from break, and I can jump into it, because
Well,
I
Yes,
have.
I'd like to hear it.
I'll tell you this: I have a whole new, and the things that I'm going to tell you are it's wild, because I jumped into the UFO topic back in 2017. Lue Elizondo came out, did all that, just kind of made it real that everything was here. But things didn't happen to me until 2 years ago. But then a lot of things happened after that. We'll get into that stuff, but it's just so bananas. And I actually have a different outlook. Like a month ago, I thought this way with these things that happened. And then just all of a sudden, I was sitting down and I was talking to someone about this like yesterday, a couple of days ago, based on some other data that I had saw. And it kind of now gives me this different perspective of how those things might be related. So we're going to definitely jump into this stuff.
Okay. Well, that's
But
great.
other than that, yeah, how you guys been doing? How's everything been?
Really good, really good. We've been working on a movie script about what happened as far as our experiences are concerned. Mostly my sister's. I've had a few, but she's had the majority of them and has better recall of them. I think my memory was swiped, and which was, sometimes I wish I did know what happened. I had some encounters, but I don't have as vivid and precise a memory of them as Shirlene does. But anyhow, we have been working on a movie, and we're really excited. We finally got it pretty much to where we want it to be. And it's going to expose a lot of things. It's going to go down that rabbit hole. And as you mentioned earlier about the fact that our government may indeed be working with different races of extraterrestrials and made an agreement with them to allow them to abduct humans or Americans anyhow. And of course, that happened, as you probably know, under Eisenhower. With that treaty that was signed. So our movie opens up with that scene, the reptilians and President Eisenhower and his people that were in his cabinet at the time and their meeting. And then we go back to our childhood. So we think it's really, really going to be interesting, and it's going to hold people spellbound. At least that's what we're hoping. And we're just looking for financing.
Yeah,
So that's where
awesome. That sounds awesome. Like I say, I always look forward to, I think as far as the broader public goes, like even people outside of ufology, people who don't even think about UFOs, I think things that are, when you think about things that can draw them in or have them pay attention, I think they're things like movies, documentaries, and things that they are entertained by that can kind of draw them in, get them to sit down for a minute and kind of absorb information. I think it's different than trying to talk to somebody about it. But as long as we have those different mediums out there to conversate or translate, then the more the merrier. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
I appreciate that. So we got about 30, 40 seconds before we come back from break here.
Okay.
A question I always get asked is, were you frightened? And so I'd like to ask you that.
We can get into that because there's
Right.
I have some clips that I was going to play later in the show, like a segment right after you guys finish up. I have a segment afterwards where I was going to kind of get into that, because the people feel like, I feel like there's a little bit of both benevolence and malevolence. I think you should really
Exactly.
be prepared hope for the best, prepare for the worst is what I say.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, here we go. All right, everybody, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio as we come back with the UFO twins, Earlene and Shirlene. We're sitting here talking about first experiences, abductions, the government, what they're doing. Do they know? Do they have these agreements? We're going to actually jump into some of that here because, Lue Elizondo came out in his book and gave names of presidents who were briefed. And as we jump back into this here, so starting off with that, I guess what we could do, Earlene, I don't know if you actually said what your first experience was or your first encounter with ET.
Well, I have not had any experiences as far as being taken aboard a UFO that I can remember. I do remember a being being in my bedroom one night, and he looked like Cousin It. I rose up because something made me wake up, and I looked straight ahead at the wall, and I could not see him, but I could feel and sense him, and I could see him kind of like with my third eye, and he was maybe about 5'2", a long shaggy hair. He looked, for all intents and purposes, just like Cousin It from, I think that was the Addams Family, that old sitcom. And I had an experience in which I was taken into the universe, and I've been to a couple of galactic meetings in the universe, and I don't remember who was there, what was discussed, but I remember on one occasion returning back to my planet, and they had an escalator service that moved you along like you would find in an airport. And I came across some other Black people returning to their respective planet, and because they were Black, I wanted to stop and greet them. And it's like the escalator knew it was like a belt that moves you along. I don't know what that's called, but anyhow, they stopped. Conveyor belt. Yeah. They stopped at where I was. I stopped at where they were. So we're I'm coming this way, they're coming that way. And we stopped right together. And I greeted them and I said hello, and they greeted me, and they told me what planet they're from. And I told them that I was from planet Earth. And the answer I got, Rob, was it blew me away. And it was a lady and a couple of other people and a gentleman with her, but she was the spokesperson. And she said, Earth, oh yes, the planet where the few control the many. And I was like, oh my God, they study us. They study us like we study other countries. And I never forgot that, because it gave me a perspective outside of our planet, in which other entities and civilizations study planet Earth and our social structure, and they know that 97% control 3% of the world, and that was pretty profound. But Shirlene has so much more interesting stories, but I did definitely want to share that, and I'll come back and share another one or two. I have a few more to sprinkle in, but hers are really exciting, and I think worthy of the time that we have left.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll get into. I wanted to actually start with, because during the break here, we were getting into, you were telling me about how you guys have put together a script and walking through that process, and you mentioned that in the beginning of that script, the way it starts off is going to start off with President Truman. And
actually, Eisenhower, President Eisenhower.
I'm sorry, Eisenhower. I'm thinking Truman, because Truman was one of the ones that Lue Elizondo.
You're right. He was the first one that encountered extraterrestrials. But we start our story with a visit in a briefing room of the White House, or some place that is very official, and reptilians are represented, and President Eisenhower and some of his top leaders are meeting with these reptilians, and they are offering him this deal in which Shirley wants to interject something.
Oh yeah, I want to start by saying how the whole idea of writing a movie script came about, because it was the extraterrestrials talked. I can communicate with them even though I'm not always on the ship, and they kind of planted the ideal that I needed to write a movie script, or we needed to write a movie script. And I thought, well, I don't know if we could write a script, but I'm going to give it a shot anyway. And so I went online and tried to get some ideas of how to write a movie script. And they even gave me the name of what they thought it should be. They wanted me to call it The Liberation of Planet Earth. And I thought, well, that's quite a interesting title. And after a few days, I forgot what they told me to write it, to label it. And I had to ask them again. Now, what was that name you gave me again? Because I haven't thought about liberation since the 60s, when we were, as Black people, trying to get liberated. Right. So that was not a name in my mind that I held on to over the years. So I had to ask the Galactics, what was the name of that movie again? And they told me The Liberation of Planet Earth. And I didn't understand that title then. What about Earth needed to be liberated? I didn't even know what they were talking about, really, with that title. But as I got into writing the script, or we got into writing the script, and going down, as Earlene said, the rabbit hole, and learning about our corruption of our government and how they're behind all of these abductions, the space programs, and you name it, got the negative ones, negative government entities are involved in these things. Then, and all the things and all the ways it impacted people, human beings. We were being taken out of our beds in the middle of the night, going to God knows where, some different dimension and different planet, interacting with beings that we didn't know about. The government didn't tell us about these beings. I've interacted with multiple different beings, reptilians and grays, and I just didn't know all that stuff. And I was just kind of pushed into it. And so that's why we that's why I know now why they told us to name it The Liberation of Planet Earth. We need to be liberated. In other words, we need to come out of this cabal type of matrix and become liberated. And that's where our movie takes the twins down that path, down that rabbit hole, to learn about the things that are going on behind the scenes, the cover-ups, the conspiracies, and all of those things that the twins eventually stumble into and learn about. So we are real proud of the movie. We've sent it out to a number of people to evaluate it, the script, and they've given us some good feedback. And it's just to the place where we want to see if we can get some funding for it and funds to get it produced. And of course, we do need some rewrites. We're not script writers, but we tried our best. Mm-hmm. So we do need some rewriting, but we think it's there. It's there enough that now we can kind of rest. It was a 9-year project. Wow. And that's a long time out of our life.
We were working full time at the time.
Working full time at that time, right. And so we worked hard on it, and I pushed Earlene sometimes, and they pushed me. Sometimes I felt like, oh gosh, they'll tell me something in the middle of the night about, oh, you didn't tie up that end of that scene, or you forgot to add levity, or things of this nature. And sometimes they give me some information, and so I'd have to get up in the middle of the night to type it out, go on my computer and type it up, so that I didn't forget it the next day, or write it down on a piece of scratch paper so I didn't forget what they told me. So I was always, I just never got any really good rest during that period of time. But it was.
And she didn't let me get any either.
And I didn't let Earlene get, I drove her I guess just pretty hard.
A slave driver. Go ahead and say it.
I was driven. I myself was driven.
And she drove me, but it was worth it. It was a labor of love.
Yes, it really was. And we are very proud of it. And we know that when we sent it out, we were dealing with Hollywood, and they weren't ready. They didn't want it. They actually, I didn't get any good feedback. I got good feedback on the script itself, but not as far as producing it and helping us get it on the big screen. On the big screen, yeah. Right.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, I'm listening to the premise, I'm listening to the title, and it encompasses, for me, just hearing that, it sounds like it would encompass everything that we need, that we're doing in the path that we need to get to where we're going, because
Yes.
liberation, it's the same thing as raising our frequency, enlightenment, that whole process that
Right.
we need to go through. With that being said, I know you touched briefly on the government's knowing that we're being abducted, right? There's some theories out there. Some people believe that the governments are fully aware that we're being abducted, and then potentially that there was the deal that was made back in the day, and that part of that deal was, okay, you guys can abduct our people in exchange for like some lower level technology. But then I've heard, recently I was watching something, I can't remember what it was, but they definitely said that they thought that potentially we were supposed to get, or the government was supposed to get, the names of those who were abducted, and then maybe the ETs didn't live up to that agreement. I feel like abductions could be there's a lot of people. Let me start saying this. There's a lot of people who have been abducted that say when this happens, they feel totally good energy, like they're not afraid, and it's a great experience. But then there's a subset of people that say they were terrified of what was going on. They felt like this was invasive, and you could potentially look at that as a threatening experience. What do you guys think about the abduction phenomena? And I guess if you've been aboard, Shirlene, how did you feel about that? Was your experience a good one, or did you feel at any point, that this was a bad thing?
No, I never felt it was a bad thing. I kept well, Earlene and I were brought up in the Christian faith, and I kept my trust in God. I went on the spiritual path even actually when I first moved here, and I read a book called Conversations with God, and I read some other spiritual books, and I remember learning in church that God loves us, God protects us, God is going to always be with us, and there's nothing to fear because God is going to protect you and be with you. I just didn't have any fear, and the people ask me all the time in our interviews how I handled it, but I wasn't afraid. I was more like a little like a child who was, it was one like in Wonderland. It was so different and so unique. Now there were some experiences where I was not happy. I'm not a happy camper. When they examined me, I would ask, well, why are you examining me? What are you doing? They wouldn't answer. And one experience where they put something in my mouth to stop me from questioning them. They did ask me if I want something to drink, and then I didn't, and they put something in my mouth, and so they weren't afraid. It varies on what kind of experience I'm having, but this group was not the friendliest group, and they had this job, and they were working real fast, and they're trying to examine me and put me on the table, and at that time, that was a experience where I went to Mars. I was being examined by this man who they were all human looking. And they wore these white lab coats, and they examined me for, I don't even know why. They weren't telling me anything, but they were always examining me. And so I got mad one time, and I tried to, I said, you have the right to know. If it was your body, wouldn't you feel you had the right to know what someone's doing to you? And they wouldn't answer the question, and they just kept working on real fast all around me and doing their jobs. And yeah, so sometimes I was not happy about it, but most of the time and sometimes there were beautiful experiences, like the lady I think it was a Palladian planet, where she took me to see beautiful structures, beautiful, what we would call like Roman Empire structures, and people sitting on the stairs, and they're studying. There were groups of students, and they were studying, and they were talking and sharing, and they were just, oh my God, the colors of this planet, the skies, the water there's no description to describe the beauty of this place. And so sometimes there were just wonderful experiences where they took me to see awesome, incredible things. Sometimes they were just examining me, and then they tell me, one lady told me, entity, I should say, told me to drink something. I'm like, well, what is that? And she didn't want to tell. First, they communicated with each other like they're going to talked, and they did. They talked to each other, looked at each other, and they talked telepathically. So I couldn't tell what they were saying, and I want to know what they're asking me to drink. And then they talked amongst themselves, and they finally said, "Oh, it's something good for you. It's going to be good for your hair, your face, it'll make you look younger, beautiful, all of this stuff." It was applying. I think they were appealing to my vanity. And so I went ahead and drank the stuff. It was like an Alka-Seltzer looking substance in a glass. I went ahead and drank it. And I don't know why now. I think back and why would I drink that stuff? I yet don't know if they were telling me the truth. So yeah, there were experiences where I was not a happy camper, and I was rebelling, wanting to know what's going on, wanted answers. They would treat me like, well, I'm just an object that they've got this job to do. And that was on some, and then other places like the exalted being that I talk about in our book, which was a dimension I went to, whereby it was a entity that we were on a beautiful grass, beautiful skies. This is a total different experience. And this entity appeared out of thin air. I mean, nothing. He just appears out of nothing. And he spoke. He looked like the figure Jesus. And his whole gown, he was bright from inside, like the sun. His clothes were like the sun. His body was like the sunshine. He was so bright and so lit up, and literally lit up. So I know that's several dimensions above where we are in third dimension, but he was just a very wonderful soul entity, advanced entity, I would say, with sharing really kind of like Jesus you heard about in the Bible, that Jesus would give you different, what do you call them?
Riddles.
Stories, allegories, what are they?
Riddles.
Well, he would give you riddles, yes, to think about and ponder and talk about and determine what that riddle means to you. So I was in areas and situations like that where you really would want to break something down and think about it, like, when does life really begin? Is it at conception or birth? Things of that nature. And we'd have to think through that and give our opinions. But mostly I interacted with positive entities. I had some negative ones. I had the, the reptilians visit me. I feel they were reptilians. In our book, we call them the renegades. They ran, well, this group was like renegades. They rummaged through my home, went in my drawers, they were looking for our script, our manuscript at the time, for the book. And they wanted to see and here I'm going to just show the book. They wanted to see what was going to be described in our book. So they made me immobile. I couldn't move. And I was stuck laying face down on the bed in my bedroom. And all the lights came on in the bathroom, but and I just couldn't move. I wanted to get up because I was close to my bathroom. I thought I could make a big cut to that, or cut to the living room, but I could not move. And so they just ramaged my home, and I could see through my third eye. I couldn't move and couldn't get up, but I could have these abilities and these experiences that are beyond the abilities I had in my everyday life. But I had my third eye just kind of went on, and I could tell what they're doing and what they were saying and doing, and they spoke in another language. I always compare them to Ricardo. Ricardo, when he goes, blah, 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 in a different languages you can't understand, and that's the way they were talking real fast in a different language, and I couldn't understand them, and they were mad at me. They were hovering above me. They were very angry with me about this manuscript for the book, and they wanted it. They were just wanting it. And so when they found it, I don't know, I was actually in the living room on the floor next to a chair because I'd been working that night on it. And when they found it, they read through it within seconds, and it literally inhaled it because they read so fast. And they were angry, I think, because of what we were writing. And so they went into the restroom. I saw the light flicker on, and no movement by them. It just turns on. And then I heard the flush of the toilet. So I thought, well, what is that supposed to mean? They're not talking to me. And I want to know why they're so angry over me, just fussing and fussing in another language, and angry now. I could feel their essence, and they held their body over me as though I felt like I was going to smother. and they went in the bathroom and urinated. So later on, I learned that that is a sign of just they didn't like something. They was just disgusted with it. Yeah, I'm sorry. What are you? Disdain. Yeah, I figured that out later on. A lot of things I had experiences with I didn't understand at the time what they were saying or why they were doing these things. But I would figure, and Earlene always helped me. I always went to Earlene to ask her. I called her. The minute I returned from the experience, I would call her and say, okay, I just had another experience. And she said, what happened? And so I would tell her the experience, and she'd help unravel it. And she was a foundation for me because, like I said, you can't go to a psychiatrist with this kind of thing. Although I did try. I did go to a psychiatrist because I wanted some professional opinions. And that was a waste of $40. At that time, it was $40. But that was kind of a waste because the guy thought, I think he thought I was crazy. And he tried to figure out he tried to pigeonhole me by saying, do you drink? Well, very rare. Do you believe in God? Do you believe in Jesus? Well, yes. And he thought I was some kind of, I don't know, possessed. I don't know what he was thinking, but he gave me all kind of questions and tried to unravel it and pinpoint what was going on. He didn't get very far because once I explained these details, he got to the point where the situation turned around. I felt like I'm now teaching him, and he didn't know what to say in response. I think it was too surprised to say anything. And so I said, I'm just going to pay my money and leave because I realized this psychiatrist, he's not equipped and trained in this field to help me. Although he said he was before I went, he wasn't. So no. I just got to the point where I'm going to be careful who I tell things. And Earlene and I came out with our story online, and we started going to different conferences and so forth, and we really were well received. Everybody wanted to hear one thing they wanted to know was what Black people were experiencing during these abductions. And I don't think that what we were experiencing, I was experiencing, or Earlene for that matter, was so different than other races. Right. That get abducted in the programs. And I didn't know about the programs when I started. I didn't know about a super space program that our government was paying for using our tax dollars and taking us away and doing all kind of things based on an agreement or treaty that was signed. Yeah, I didn't learn all that until later. Like I said, the twins, like in our movie, we go through this process and learn these things. And it's how us as a family dealt with it, how I had to share it with my family, my children, even my ex-husband, and men I would meet. I started dating, and I didn't know how to approach it with the men I'm interested in seeing. How do you tell them I've been abducted? And some of the men I've dated had, as a result of being with me, themselves were abducted sooner or later.
And hold right there, because you bring up a good point as we got about 30 seconds before we go to break.
Okay.
Talking to a therapist, and you mentioned them not being trained in that. And that just made me think about how there's going to have to be a recalibration for these therapists, because they're going to be doing a lot of business going forward in disclosure. And they need to learn how to deal with what this is. And that's an excellent thing to talk about. But as we get ready to go into our break here, we got about 20 seconds. I just wanted to put that out there because there is a period of time, I believe, once disclosure hits, that we're going to have support for the mentalities of a lot of people out there who just aren't able to absorb this. But we'll talk about more and everything else regarding this and secret space programs right here on Spaced Out Radio. You guys don't go anywhere. Make sure you come right back if you do.
Conversations that move the needle.
You're listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio.
You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, and here's where we take a video break. So we'll be off camera for the next 5 minutes, but I'll see you guys shortly.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. All right, everybody in YouTube land. Thanks for being here. Thanks for coming back. We're gonna be coming back for radio break here in just about 30 seconds. So yeah, and actually, let me tell you this before we do. You guys, any questions that you have, put them in all caps, and I'll save them as I see them, and we will pose those on the back half of this second hour. So you guys get that together, and we're getting ready to come back here. All right, everybody, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio, after hour number 2 with me, your host, Mr. Rob G, as we are joined back by Earlene and Shirlene, aka the UFO twins. We've been talking about some awesome stuff, so if you missed anything, definitely hop in our archives, which by the way, are absolutely free. You can access those at youtube.com/@SpacedOutRadio. And while you're there, please consider hitting that subscribe button, like button, as we go ahead and jump back into the conversation here. So I was going to ask you, and this is one question I'm sure you guys probably get a lot. Well, let me start by saying this. I can see by what we've talked about so far that Shirlene, you seem to be more of the experiencer, and Earlene, you're the experiencer / researcher. So you have all the data,
Right.
which allows Shirlene to kind of lean on you for to kind of bounce things off of you and
Support.
spitball. That's a great team right there. But with
Yes,
that being
thank
said, being that twins usually have like a connection, right? Like a intuitive sort of connection. Does that play in anywhere when it comes to this UFO experience? Like, do you feel something if the other is going through something in relation? Well, probably across the board, but specifically in relation to this phenomenon, this UFO phenomenon.
Well, I can't say that when Shirlene is having experiences, I pick up on it or I intuitively know she is having that experience. We haven't had that kind of experience, if you will. But I'm so happy to be here to support her and just be a sounding base for her to bounce off of and share what she's experienced and try to make some sense of it based on stories I've read that are similar. So that is definitely the role I played. Now, Shirlene did have one experience in which, and she can share it with you, where she said I was on it. I
Yes.
slept through the night like a baby. I don't remember anything, but she said she said I was there. You want to pick it up?
That particular experience, I was being taken up into a UFO, and the UFO held occupants that were kind of circular in this ship. And I was telling I sensed that my sister was there, and I felt her presence. I knew she was there. And I said, you're going too. And her response was, well, if they want to take me, they're just going to have to wait because I have to use the bathroom.
And that sounds just like me, Rob. I can see myself saying that.
So
But
anyway,
I have no recall of it.
and so as a result of her response to them, they decided to leave her behind.
which was fine with me.
See,
I don't recall it anyhow. So,
and that's the thing. So talking about that, because I actually had when we were talking earlier about the astral traveling in dreams and that you are actually going to these places, I had a block of dreams probably started 15, 20 years ago, where for like 2 or 3 weeks straight, essentially every night almost, I was going to the same place every time, same street, same everything, and everything to the finest detail was exactly the same. Then I'd go 5-10 years without having that dream, and then have that dream again, and it's exactly the same, detail by detail. But one of the latest dreams would probably happen within the last few months. My girl was there with me, and it was like I was taking her and showing her the stuff that I knew that was going to happen in the dream. And then when I wake up, because she's a big dream person. Dreams mean things. Dreams mean this. So I usually as I can remember them, I'll run them by her. Just, see what that's her thing. So in this particular case, I said I took you with me. You were there with me, and I asked her like seriously. I was like, "Do you recall that? Like, was that something that you remember? Because we were pretty much there." And
Mhm.
so I think there's a level of not remembering, and that kind of leads into what we were talking about on break earlier about. I think that when it comes to abductions, that you aren't supposed to remember, like this interaction, you're not supposed to remember this. I think that you're supposed to be out of it that entire time until they put you back where you are. The same way we go out into the safari and tag animals and we put them to sleep. They wake up, they just know that something happened. They go back and they tell the story to everybody else. Nobody believes them, and it's kind of the same thing. But I think there's like a small percentage of people that do wake up during this procedure and end up being able to come back and tell the story. So when I say that, there's a when you look at stories of these interactions, it seems like there's only a small portion of people that are being abducted, but I feel like it's probably most of us that are being abducted and we just don't recall that. So like going into you being there, Earlene, and not remembering that it's potentially possible that you were there and you just literally don't remember.
Right, exactly. I agree, and I think that's the case, actually.
So what are these when it comes what species do you think, well, let's get into species. What species are you aware of out there? Because I'm new to this. I haven't had an actual, well, until I do this regression that I plan on doing this year, which I think might uncover the fact that I have had some sort of contact. As far as I know, I haven't had any actual being contact. So, what type of beings are out there? And then, which ones are the ones responsible for abductions? Are they all doing this, or what is your perspective on that?
My perspective is the galaxy is full of multiple entities and different races of entities of extraterrestrials. It's hard, you can't just collect and say they're all like this because they come from different planets and they have different experiences and they have different motives and goals. So I've interacted, I can tell some of the ones I've interacted with. I've interacted with a group I call the Stone People. And these were entities that look like stone. If you can imagine a graveyard with tall tombstones, and they could dance and they could turn. They had the facial expression. They could literally dance like They were lined up like Africans do their dances, and they danced for me. It was bizarre. It sounds. It's even more shocking to see. You have to really be open to knowing that you don't know what you might see or know what they are. And they are different life forms than we are. I have a chapter called the Pillow People. Entity looked like a pillow, large, tall pillow. And then, like I said, this large, tall tombstone, the grave, the headstones. And I have the gray. I've interacted with the grays. We're all familiar with the big eyes and their eyes that go way back, and they have a slither for a smile. So I've interacted with that group. And my sister mentioned that the what do you call it, the uncle, what was the entity with the hairy look you mentioned?
Oh,
Mhm.
gosh, yeah, cousin It.
Cousin
Yeah,
It.
that's the one that was in my bedroom.
And so we have just interacted. This just, you can't, how can you can't say they're all alike. They're so different.
I like to share, interject and share this. This was like more like a dream, Rob, but I really think it was an experience cloaked as a dream for me to be able to handle it easier. But on the subject of different extraterrestrial races, don't know why, I was chosen to go to this hierarchy of exalted leaders that would hear my petition to allow the sovereignty and freedom for our planet. I don't know why, out of the billions of people on this planet, I was the one that was to do that, but that was my assignment, to go and just plead for our freedom. And so I'm on my way to this dimension of where these big leadership of people are that will decide decides the fate of planets. And on the way, I was deterred and taken to another planet. And on that planet, I saw these beings that looked like huge rectangular beings. They were straight, no shoulders, no neck. They were colors like you would see Africans wearing bright greens and reds and blues, beautiful, but the color was them. They weren't in attire or clothes. The color was them. And I'll never forget their forlorn look, Rob, because they were desperately wanting their freedom too. And they had, I guess, learned I was going to represent Earth, and they asked me would I represent them too. But there was such a pleading of desperation. Can you please speak in our behalf too? But and so I remember that, and they were kind of reminding me of the Kachina Indian dolls, but they were like just a straight rectangular being, and there was a face and then the body, but there was no neck, no shoulders, anything, just straight. And they were very, very colorful. And I felt so sorry for them. I can still see their faces to this day, but I just wanted to share what they looked like.
Yeah, that's awesome. And talking about species, because I want to kind of lead into why, what do you think the purpose is? First of all, some people think there's a group that are here full time, live here, have lived here before us, and still live here. Then we have ones that are potentially visiting from other places, like straight through space travel, and then some popping in from dimensions. There are all sorts of theories. Obviously, nobody knows the answer. But, and I'll say this, I know there's been a lot of people, and I don't know if this is just the optimistic side of people or the I think maybe people are trying to convince themselves that this is just a great experience, so as not to put worry on themselves and be able to live life and navigate through life. But there's some people think it's all love and light. Like, hey, these things are here to help. But as we talk about different species, and as Shirlene said, from these are coming from different places, so all their intents can't be the same. There's a lot of theories on why these different species are visiting here at one time. One theory is that there's the ones that live here full time, if there are any, are potentially protecting us from ones that are coming from out there, and it's like an unseen sort of situation. So that means that there's some benevolence and some malevolence potentially going on here. What are you able to process that sort of thing? And do you think
yes,
what's going on with
I
that?
would like to share something that really matches what you're saying. It's not in our book, but I had a lot of experiences after we got the book completed. But Earlene, in this dream state that I know was real, this entity came. We were in the same bed, like when we were younger, we slept in the same bed as we grew up. Well, in this dream, we were in the same bed, one of us on the left, one on the right. And an entity came into my bedroom where both of us were lying. And he was an African American. Well, no, he wasn't African. I can't say where he's from, Africa, that he's from Africa. But he was a human looking, I'll put it that way, black human, black male human. And he hovered over our bed, and he stretched his arms out as though he's now protecting us both. It's like he knew that an entity was about to visit me. So he got there first, and he had a short fro, and he was a young black male, and he hovered over us and held over us. whereby this next entity that came that was the bad guy. So you have the good guy and the bad guy in the same experience. So the good guy came, which is the short afro young black man, and then the bad guy came, which was he was more like an astral projection. I feel like he was colorful. I could see him through my third eye, so to speak. So we were in the bedroom, and like I said, the good guy was holding on. And so finally, the two of them they zipped into the living room and they started a sword fight. But it wasn't swords, it was lasers. And they're doing this all around each other, up and down and whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. And they're literally fighting over me and Earlene. The bad guy wanted us. I'm sure probably going to do something nefarious to us. The good guy, the young black entity, wanted to protect us. So they're fighting with these swords, and finally, the good guy pinned down the bad guy with this laser weapon. This stuff is just like off of TV, because I didn't used to watch this. I had never watched TV, these kind of shows on TV, but this is awful. This is it's so weird. It's just very much like TV. So anyway, the good guy pinned the bad guy down in a chair in the living room, where I had astrally came into the living room and to see what they were doing. And I saw this fight going on with these laser weapons, and the good guy pinned down the bad guy. And he said the good guy said to the bad guy sitting in this green chair I'm looking right at it now, he said, "Why are you doing this?" He said to the bad guy, "Why are you doing this?" And the bad guy responded, "Because they'll believe her."
Wow.
I never.
Now, what did the bad guy look like, Shirlene?
He was more astral, and therefore he was thin, vapor looking, and he had colors. He didn't have a shape, but until he picked up that sword, he didn't really have a shape that I could remember, but I could sense he was astral, and he was different. He was colored, not colorful, I should say, multiple colors, you might say.
And I think with the phenomena, it kind of presents itself in different ways. And it's kind of some of the things you see are like metaphors for other things. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of interesting to hear the experience and then try to read between the lines at what was the message it was trying to send to you. Because I think that, there's definitely unseen like battles potentially over us. Right. Behind the scenes that we're just unaware of. So for you to see it in that light is kind of interesting, because that means you must be tapped in somehow, because a lot of people just when you're stuck in this societal bubble, you're kind of blocked off from that. And I guess that's the third eye right there that you speak of that allows you to tap into that. But it's very interesting that you say that, because I've talked to a lot of different people and I've never heard of someone being shown that in that way, right? That there is a battle over us. Right. Because that does lean into, as you were making the point, that there are different sides to this as far as benevolent malevolence. So with that being said, like, disclosure, as we got about 5 minutes, a little over 5 minutes to our next break, disclosure is something that can happen, I feel like, tomorrow. Like if they decide to do this and make this a known thing, they're going to do it, and it could happen tomorrow. And then we get to going through the whole mental process we talked about, where there's going to have to be a support system. What do you think happens in the moment of disclosure? Like if it were to happen, how would you handle it? Or what would you recommend, like, to get through that process?
I recommend not having any fear. And I know that sounds difficult, but if we can understand that we are light and love and God is protecting us, and believe that, see, because we create that reality that we want to experience. We can create and change that reality. So I would recommend knowing that this is an experience I brought to myself. I'm open to what I'm learning from it. I will not be frightened or fearful of this. and I will let it unfold as it needs to unfold so that I could learn from it and maybe share it with others so they won't have the fright, the scare, because our galactic brothers and sisters are looking forward to meeting us. They very much want to meet us. It's like long lost relatives that we are to them. And so we want to meet them and they want to meet us. But their concern is that we're not ready to meet them because we are too violent. And we react with violence. We got that old mentality, just shoot first and then ask questions later. They're concerned about where we are vibrationally speaking, but we can raise our vibration to know that we are loved and we are protected and we're going to be okay. One experience, I could not get back into my body. I was astrally out there in the universe and I was ready to come back. And I I was in bed and I tried to slide back into my body and I failed. I couldn't get in. Then I backed it up just like a baseball game. And I tried to slide back into my body, which is the base. You slide into the base. I'm playing baseball. And I couldn't get in on that second attempt. And then I knew I could have just panicked and never got back in my body. And then everybody would have found me. My sister would have found me dead the next day. If I didn't make it back in my body, I would have been dead. So I knew to ask God's help. I said, God, please allow me to re-enter my body to complete the work for which I've come to do. And with that prayer, I zipped into my body in no time flat. And I was just myself. I was fine. So we just to know that you can always, even in these experiences, always ask God for help. Jesus, who you believe in, and ask for that help and know it's going to be there. Just the fear factor is paramount right now. That's part of Earlene and I work. I want to also, before we do close, I would like to talk about Mars being predominantly black. That's probably the most sought out story we share when we're doing our interviews and doing our lectures and so forth. But I found out that Mars I was told when going to Mars that Mars is predominantly black.
Wow. I believe people were there, and it's interesting to get a backstory on that. So I'd love to hear about it. As we have about 2 minutes left, so if you could give us like a brief one, and then jump into it after the break.
I was taken to Mars. I was being examined by a white male Caucasian man. He was in a white doctor's outfit, and he told me he was examining me, and we started a conversation because I'm going to talk. I'm not afraid to talk. And I told him about, some rock that traveled through the galaxy and landed here on planet Earth, and it was microorganisms on it, which indicated that we had life. There was life on Mars because this rock was thought by scientists to come from Mars. So he said, I am well aware of your findings. And that was it. So then he said, he took me to a map. We had this huge wall map, electronic map. It was before we had large monitors like we have today, but they had them on Mars at that point. They were advanced before, much further than we are. And he showed me mountainous areas and regions that were occupied, and these mountains had names on them. And so he was explaining all that, and he showed me one that's called, I don't remember if it was Mu or U.
It's Mu.
Mu. And he showed me that area, and then he said, Mars is predominantly black. Well, I didn't know what to do with that. And then a lady walked out of the back room of this office I was in on Mars. By the way, this particular dimension, the furniture was old. It looked like I was in the 60s, and it was an old hospital-looking type of structure. And a black female walked out in a white lab coat. So I thought she was a doctor. She was in an adjacent room and heard what he said to me, and she reiterated, Mars is predominantly black. She said exactly the same thing. And then Earlene and I have been doing some research, and we've learned from others. I saw a video.
Right there, Shirley, because we're going into break right now. We'll finish on the other side as we get ready to go into the back half of hour number 2 already. Right here at Spaced Out Radio. Time has gone fast. We're going to get into finishing talking about Mars, predominantly black.
Yes.
I definitely think transplants happened from other planets to here. It'd be interesting to hear the rest of that, and also get into the book that Earlene and Shirlene have written more when we come back right here on Spaced Out Radio. Don't go anywhere. Okay, and we are clear. So we got about 5 minutes here. So yeah, we'll finish talking about Mars, and then we can go into the book, and because I want to hear some of the experiences from the book as well. And yeah, like I said, time has gone fast, and we're gonna have to do this again for sure. So we'll talk afterwards and try to set something else up and continue our conversation on another day as well.
Okay, sounds good.
Everybody out there, hit the like button as well. I haven't said that once during the show. Make sure you guys hit that like button. We definitely would appreciate that. Definitely helps the algorithm and kind of helps get the show out there. We would love to have the show out there to as many people as possible. Share it as well if you can. Share it on your social media platforms. We definitely, it's more than talking to people that understand this. We want this to reach people who are on the fence or people who haven't yet come in, and because this message needs to get out to everyone actually before we can make those moves. Let me go ahead and look through the chat here and see if everyone who else, anyone saying anything in the chat. Let me see. Actually, also, yes, please make sure, because I haven't really seen, I've seen a few questions. I may have missed some because we're into the conversation. So if you wouldn't mind, if you did put questions in, could you please repost those in caps? I'm on the lookout right now so I can make sure that I tag those. And I would appreciate it. And let's see. Also, Flat Six, I didn't talk to you. Definitely want to thank you for coming on in. You came in since the beginning of the show. Appreciate you. JSCO77. Kira, I am. Thanks for coming on in. Uncut Savage, appreciate you showing up. JBD, thank you for coming on in. JBD is, I'll bring this up. He's saying this is a fantastic show. Thank you all for participating. And JBD, you seem to be a new person. If you are, definitely want to welcome you to Spaced Out Radio. Kind of let you know how this is going down right now. You've reached, you've come in on the after hours where I'm the host on the weekend, Saturday, Sunday. We run 8 p.m. Pacific until 11 p.m. And then you got Dave Scott conducting the Woo Train Monday through Friday from 9 p.m. till midnight. Then you get Jax and Lee, they're on Fridays from 8 p.m. till 9 p.m. Pacific, right before Dave Scott. And yeah, so that means it's 7 days a week. We got something going on here at Space Out Radio. So every single day you can tune in and talk UFOs, cryptids, and all these different things. So make sure, if you haven't, please hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you know next time we go live. Also, Jake, not from State Farm, saying, "What's up, fam?" Hey, Jake, thanks for coming on in. Also, a new name. Hope you heard exactly what I just said. That applies to you as well. Cryptid Search, thanks for coming on in. Appreciate you. Who else we had? We had welcome to the show. You snuck in during the show. I saw you. Appreciate you coming in. Welcome to the show. Let's see. Daniela, thank you for coming on in. Let's see. Brown Dwarf. Yes, Brown Dwarf. Thanks for coming on in. Appreciate you, man. You always come through. Sierra, thank you. I see you out there. Ron J, also, I see you as well. Appreciate you coming in. And yeah, we're looking good. All right. Yep. I see a question here. Let me go ahead and tag that. Wes Decker is in the building. W. Decker, thanks for coming on in. Fantastic interview. My compliments to you and your amazing guests. We appreciate your support, Wes Decker. Thanks for coming in. All right. We got about a minute left here. Let's see. Yeah. Here I am says, thank you, ladies. I want to make sure you guys got that. They're
Oh,
saying a lot of great stuff about you guys out here, so they're
oh,
really resonating with everything we're talking about. And like I said, we met through the experiences of Color Collective, and where we meet up because our stories don't get told a lot out here in ufology. So, it's great to be able to do that, and then me to be able to do that, right? So
Right.
I'm loving it, and I think it's a beautiful thing, and I'm just appreciate you guys coming in to do this.
thank
Well,
you.
thank you. We're happy to be here. We always love sharing our stories.
Yeah, definitely. You guys are doing great as well. All right, here we go. We're getting ready to come back. Let's see, 20 seconds. Magneticus, why is my chat not showing? Your chat is showing on this channel. I don't know if you're talking about Brown Door's channel or not, but you're showing up here, buddy. All right, here we go. All right, everybody, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio after hour 2.5. We're on the back half of hour number 2 already. It's already almost coming to an end, which is wild. Don't forget, guys, though, you can follow us on X and Instagram at Spaced Out Radio and at Spaced Out Radio Show. So please make sure you do that. Space Travelers, don't forget, you can actually join our Space Travelers Club on Patreon for as little as $5 per month. Please consider doing that. Now, as we jump back into the conversation, I want to get right back into the Mars theory that you were speaking of. You were in the middle of the sentence when we had to kind of go to break. So if you wouldn't mind kind of jumping back in where you left off.
Oh, sure. Okay, so I was taken to Mars on several occasions, and there I found that Mars was different from what we had been told. It being a red planet and deserted, and it's nothing but red dirt and all of these things. And I found, because I believe it was a different dimension, I found it to be the place where I was anyway. There was trees, there was lakes, there was water, there was even human beings, I believe, on Mars, because I saw a graveyard where you could see the stones, a headstone. So I believe life existed on Mars by human beings that were taken there. This is what we surmised later on. And it's funny because sometimes when I would have these experiences, they don't always make sense, because we know what we've been told by NASA, that there's no life on Mars and it's a dry planet. And that's just not the case. I didn't see that to be true. Instead, I saw, as I said, trees and skies and houses, even A-framed houses, like our the old A-frame homes in some cities and states. I saw water and lakes and so forth, and it had life, and I could breathe. I was surprised that I felt like now I may have had to be transferred from that astral to the physical, but I could breathe. Had I not been able to breathe, I would have been telling them, hey, help, I can't breathe out here. But I was breathing fine. It wasn't an issue. But anyway, getting back to the Mars is predominantly black. That was what I was told by a doctor type figure. He was a male Caucasian. And I'm not trying to make this into anything that's race based, but this is just my experience, because I never knew these things. No one ever tells you these things. You were what you learned, something like that. Mars is predominantly black. But I believe this is what this doctor type individual told me. And then a lady walked out of the back room who was also a doctor's type person wearing the white gown, and who overheard our conversation, what the original doctor said, and she reiterated that Mars is predominantly black. And I didn't know what to think of that statement. I normally I'm not short for words, but I didn't know what to say, and I didn't respond to that. And when I came back, of course, from my experience, as always, I called my sister and I told her what I learned and what I experienced, and she had a reaction to it, which you write about in the book, and whereby you can go into that, Earlene. And then Earlene also, I should say, later on, many years here recently, because this was all in the late 90s, early 2000s. I learned that other people now are coming online and sharing about Mars being occupied by human beings, by people being possibly slave, that actually were slaves on Mars. So I wondered, this is a theory. I wondered if the concept of slavery on this planet came from Mars initially. That's where I think there's a tie there, because I think reptilians were using us for labor, certainly in this early half of our experience on this planet. And I think they had used us the same way on Mars. And then I saw a video which confirmed that. I feel like when you have a question in the universe, you just put it out there, and it may take months or years to come back, but information starts flowing back into your experience, and you're like, oh my God. And now I'm learning about potential slavery on Mars. And this gentleman, I won't say his name, that put out a video recently, no more than a month ago, talked about slaves on Mars. And I thought, well, that's amazing, because I was told that Mars is predominantly Black. And that all start to make sense. And then my sister found an article that she's going to share from a man that talks about Black people, 10,000 Black people missing, and that's on this planet. 10,000 Black people came up missing. Wow. You want to share that, Earlene?
Well, it's from the Rodney King riots, and the late great Dick Gregory, whom I'm sure you've heard of, comedian, activist, and he has several interviews right now on YouTube in which he shares that during the Rodney King riots, 18,000 Black men were picked up and arrested, but only 10,000 are now still unaccounted for. So his question begs the answer: what happened to 10,000 Black men that were arrested in the Los Angeles County Jail? Now, his belief is that, and I'm sure that it's got a lot of validity to it, is that they used these Black men for organ parts. But my sister and I surmised also that we believe that they were transported to Mars for slavery, because the fact that Shirlene got that Mars was predominantly Black. 10,000. Actually, Dick Gregory has a video that says 1.5 million Black men are missing. Of that, the 10,000 that was involved in the Rodney King riots were found missing from LA County County Jail. And what's interesting about that, Rob, is the fact that Rodney King was slated for this role. This was not an accident. He was deliberately put into jail. He was beaten, and they took him out of jail. They beat the hell out of him, and then of course the riot ensued. It was all planned. It was all orchestrated to create this LA riot, and a lot of people don't know that, but that is according to some sources I've read. So we're just trying to peel back the layers of this onion and try to put two and two together. We don't have anything substantive in terms of knowing that Black people were indeed sent to Mars. We just believe that the fact that they suddenly became missing, and Shirlene received this information by going to Mars that is predominantly Black, that they may indeed have been used for slave labor, for mining minerals on Mars and whatever else. Even though she saw the white male and female doctor, they could be considered slaves. I mean, we're all slaves on this planet. We have to work for a living, and so they too, even in their respective careers, they may not have been mining for minerals, resources, like probably the other Black slaves were, but they're there. And Shirlene also talked to a lady that said she would love to visit Earth one day. And yeah. she was human looking.
She was Black woman, and she was human. Yes, and earlier I wanted to mention one thing we talked about earlier before the show, that article about 10 million?
10,000 missing Black men from LA County Jail.
that came out in the New York Times.
Yes, that was a New York Times article. Matter of fact.
And so where are these men? Where are these people? And there's been no search for them, no information about them. What happened to their families? Are they not looking for the 10,000 is a lot of people? And
well, let me read this real quick. I just pulled it up. Officials said today that they had arrested 18,000 people from Wednesday night, April 29th, the day the riots began, through this morning. But prosecutors said they could not account for as many as 10,000 of those people. Quote, "We don't know where these people are," end quote, said James Hahn, the Los Angeles city attorney. Quote, "It's a mystery to a lot of people in the system right now," end quote. And that is from the New York Times article that tells about these missing Black men.
Wow.
So I'm an advocate. I've become an advocate, and we've become an advocate to find out the truth. I just realized when I watched JFK yesterday with this amazing speech, I just thought it was incredible that he.
You mean RFK?
I'm sorry, RFK. That was an amazing speech. But he said if Trump became president, of course, he was going to. They were going to open these documents to see how JFK died, and Robert Kennedy Jr. as well. So they've got that made me feel like, wait, you've got their documents. What about our documents? What happened to these 10,000 people that disappeared after the Rodney King incident? Where did they go? Why are there no files no one's wanting to open and look into and determine where these 10,000 people went? It's bizarre to think that they just disappeared out of thin air or got whipped up into a UFO, and I guess that is possible. They could whip them up into a UFO and no one saw it. But what about their families? Aren't they questioning anything? We want to know too. We want to know our story. Of course we want to know what happened to John F. Kennedy and his brother. But we want to know what happened to Black people. What's going on with Black people that we're getting taken away against our will, and the government doesn't do a darn thing about it to help us. They don't even want to acknowledge that it's happening, but yet it's continually happening. And I believe there's probably been, we are not alone. I believe there's probably been millions of people who've been taken into these secret space programs against their will, having gone under all kinds of examinations and all kind of rape and slavery and you name it, at the hands of the corrupt reptilian races that our government has been interacting and working with. And we're trying to put this puzzle together, but nobody's trying to put this together, especially when it comes to our race. And I speak for white people too, and not meaning to leave them out, because I saw white people on Mars too, who were working, as I mentioned. One was the Caucasian doctor. So, and Earlene mentioned they are too slaves because they are probably there against their will. One woman sat with me on Mars, and she was a Black woman. We sat in the cafeteria. We went through the line, just like on Earth. They had cafeterias there too. And she said, I've heard, and we got to talking, and she said, I heard about Earth, and there's someday I'd like to visit. I'd like to visit your planet, visit Earth. And that was so bizarre to me, because how is it that this is even occurring and they are there, and that and when I saw graveyards there, that made me think they lived their lives there. They've had children there, most likely. There's graveyards there because they took me to one. I saw one. The entities took me to one and showed me these graveyards.
And they had a Christian cross. Didn't they have a Christian cross?
Right, Christian cross at the graveyard. Just
like they had to have been indigenous to Earth to have taken their religion of Christianity with them. They took their religion
with them. That's exactly right. So they were, that's what I saw. And so when you try to think, you put all this together, you think, oh my God, our government has to know some of this information. We want our story out. I do want to hear about John F. K. for certain. And I'm glad that President Trump is going to release those documents. That's what I've heard on YouTube here in the last few days. But I want our story released. I want our information released. I think we deserve it. We have a right for it. Right to it. We are human beings. We are sovereign beings. We should be sovereign beings. We're fighting for our sovereignty right now, I know. But we should be sovereign beings both here and on other planets that take us against our will. And I think we need to make a coalition or do something to get that through to our government that, hey, we want to know what happened to us too, because we're involved in this thing too. And nobody's talking about that where any of the indigenous races are concerned, as far as I know.
And don't forget, Dick Gregory said 1.5 million,
million,
of which 10,000 disappeared from the LA County Jail. So where's the rest of those people? And again, we do believe that his hypothesis has some validity, that they're being used for body parts, but we don't believe that many are being used for body parts. We believe they're being taken away.
Like you said, it's an onion, and it's a hard one to get into. It's a hard, the secrecy, as far as getting the government to tell you anything is not going to happen.
Yeah. Because they're so compartmentalized. These are Black projects. And like Shirlene said earlier, our tax dollars pay for these Black projects. And it's going to take, probably an act of Congress, as they say, to get these documents declassified and released. But like Shirlene also said, at some level, at some point, they have this information. They know where these 1.5 million Black men went.
Here's the best part. The best part about it all is that disclosure. When disclosure comes, in my eyes, the theory I have is that everything changes. So governments and that whole thing is going to be a thing of the past, of afterthought. Like, and then maybe we get at that point, because it's dissolved and we've recreated something new. Then maybe we get access to all the secret files at that point. Maybe that's a thing in the new day, that we can all dive into those archives and really discover all the, because we know there's been a million bad things that the government has been caught doing, with exposing soldiers to nuclear tests and in the whole syphilis thing from back in the day, MK Ultra. These are things they were caught doing. So imagine the things that they that have yet to be discovered, and that could be leading in the secret space program. If they're aware that people are being abducted and they're letting it happen, that's also a totally negative thing. And then going to the point, like you said, 10,000 Black men disappeared, and then that's just in that incident. And then you mentioned there's probably millions of people actually there is a number. There's something like I want to say, when I checked last, it was like 600,000 people just in the United States go missing every single year, and that includes us Black folks. That includes every other race that lives here, kids, adults, all across the board. And then the question is, well, where are they going? Are they being sent off to Mars? That's one theory with the secret space program. And my belief with Mars is that definitely, I don't know about today if things live there. Maybe the rover isn't showing us really what's going on there, but I know for sure we used to be there, and it's going to be interesting to find out what how deep that goes. But what I do want to do, because we got only about 5 minutes left, I want to make sure you guys talk about the book. If you would go ahead, spend the time talking about the book as well.
Okay, our book is called
Let me see
if I can get it From the Motherland to the Mothership. And it's on Amazon, and it's got a 5-star review, and we have other great reviews about the book. And this is the photo on the front of it, and then it goes to the back and tell a little bit about our story. Let's see. So we gotten great, as I said, great reviews from it, and people are learning about our story. And we've been someone called us on this CC Color Collective. Someone said we are, what he called us, not pioneers, I forget the word, legends or something like that, because we've been in this thing a long time. But this is our passion. This is our work. Our website is ufotwins.com, and on that there will be several links about our story we wrote. About our story, our movie script. And asking for anybody that can finance this to help us get it off the ground and get it in theater so people can learn these things are going on. And we also wrote a song, Galactic Hymn of Earth Emergence. That's when I was taken up into the galaxy, and I was exposed to a song called the Battle Hymn of the Republic. And when I was returned to my bed, I heard the songs continually going on, playing in my mind. So I, of course, called my sister, told her what happened. I'm in the elevator, like this particular UFO was an elevator-like vehicle, and it just floated through the galaxy. It was amazing. And I heard the song pumped in somehow. And we later figured out, after Earlene and I, great wonderful discussions we have. Sometimes I wish we could tape them, but and her husband, oh my God, we got to tell you about him. He has heard all our stories, and he just backs us very much.
He's real supportive.
He's very supportive. He's wonderful, and he keeps an open mind. But anyway, we've had a song. We wrote a song called Galactic Hymn of Earth's Emergence as a result of one of my experiences going out into the galaxy. And we wrote new words to it because we knew that song came to me. We figured out, Earlene pretty much figured out that song came to me for us to write our own words, our own version of the song. And it's on YouTube. It's called Galactic Hymn of Earth's Emergence. I wish we had time to play it, but it's kind of a
Our World's Anthem.
Our World's Anthem. And we just feel like this is going to be hopefully something that can unite us as humanity, because it is our world. And we're going out into these places that no one wants to talk about. No one's really, a lot of people are getting online now and doing what we're doing and having conferences. But I guess my point is the government is not acknowledging it. And I've often thought, why not? Why can't you? Pretty soon they're going to show up on our lawns. They're above our heads now in ships that we can't see. So we know they're
so
here.
many now we can see. They're coming lower and lower.
Yes.
Yeah. And I didn't even get a chance to share my experience, but we'll talk again. We're in a meeting together, and we'll have other times, and I want to have you guys back as well. Because, first interview is always like, let's get to the basics, let's cover these certain things. Then the second one is usually like, hey, let's just talk about stuff. So we definitely got to get you guys booked back. And I have a question that did come in from Kira. She was asking, how old were you and Shirlene when the entity protected you and then defended you against the shadow being? Did you get a sense he was a guardian angel? And as we have about a little over a minute, if you can give a quick answer.
I would say, as far as my age, I was, I don't remember. That had to happen about, now I'm giving away my age. I don't know. Do I have your permission, Earlene? I got to ask my sister. Is that okay with you? Because if I give my age away, I know I'm giving her age away.
I do not have a problem with it.
I think I was in my late 50s. I don't know. And it was, yes, now I think that was a guardian angel. And that's why I know we're protected. I know we come out here on Jump Street and share a lot of things that are controversial. But I've always felt God is with us. God will protect us. Our guardian angels will protect us. I talk with them like I'm talking to you. And that's my belief. And so I don't have any fear. And I feel honored and blessed that this came into my life as part of my life, part of our lives, and part of our mission. I think this lifetime, we think this was our mission when we incarnated here, because we're both having some element of these experiences going on that we can share with people and maybe help educate and help them to lose some of the fear that they may have, because they're here and they want us to know it. They are excited. They're waiting. They're wanting to have the great big jubilee too, and the great big party with us. And we want it to. We want it to. We want to know, because it's a part of us. We're a part of each other. We're all connected in this galaxy, all under God, all under one. So it's time we got to know our space brothers and sisters, and they want to know. They want to meet us.
Well, that is so awesome. I'm so glad you guys came and brought, new perspective to the conversation. Because once again, we talk about, as in our meetings that we have, we're kind of underrepresented. Everybody has experiences, and it's cool to hear, some come from other Black people. Just say it. You know what I mean? We're all humanity. We will continue to do this. But you guys have a great rest of your night. Totally appreciate you coming.
Conversations that
you guys take care.
Conversations
Thank you for having us.
into after hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio.
You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, we are clear. Thank you, Earlene and Shirlene, UFO twins. Excellent conversation. We're going into break. I will see you guys. Don't go anywhere. Hour number 3 is going to be smashing. See you in a moment. Welcome back, everybody. Spaced Out Radio After Hour number 3 with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. And we were supposed to get into some paranormal report, but we don't have Jax at this moment. She may come in. So we're going to jump into some other stuff here as we come back from break. Yep, here we go. All right, everybody, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio After Hour number 3 with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. Yes, as it stands, we're going to go ahead and jump into a couple things here. I think what we'll do is we'll pull out some Steve Stockton. That's what we'll do. We'll pull out some Steve Stockton among the missing, because I know we have some, definitely some stuff we can play from that. As we have a fantastic hour number 3, we got some things planned, some quotes. Actually, you know, Joe Rogan had Lue Elizondo on recently, and I clipped a couple of quotes and comments from that show that I definitely want to play here, some sound bites. So we'll be playing those here in a moment, and kind of going over, you know, the whole idea behind what it is that he was saying. You know, there's some things, it depending on how much Lue knows. If he knows what he's alluding to, then I think there's definitely a serious conversation that has to be had. So we're going to be doing that. Let me go ahead and prepare us for some Steve Stockton here. And this is what we'll do. Let's get some Steve Stockton going.
Welcome to Tales Untold and Missing Persons Mysteries on Spaced Out Radio's After Hours. My name is Steve Stockton, and I'm here to take you on a journey of mysteries, legends, and true stories. Come, join me on this strange adventure of Tales Untold and Missing Person Mysteries. Hello, friends. Steve Stockton here with you. Now, for some, a walk in the wilderness can be the perfect getaway from everyday life and a chance to reconnect with Mother Nature. For others, the great outdoors can be a dangerous place, and unfortunately, is a place where many people meet their end or just mysteriously vanish. Here are cases for you to consider. Randy Rasco. On November 19th, 2015, park rangers at the Mammoth Cave National Park in Kentucky noticed that a car had been sitting in the car park for around 2 weeks. This immediately set off warning bells, and after doing some digging for information, they discovered that the car belonged to 40-year-old Randy Rasco. As the car had been there for quite some time, the park rangers set about searching for Randy right away. But when he couldn't be found in or near the parking area, they opened an investigation and widened their search. Park rangers and investigators contacted Randy's family to see if they had spoken to him, but chillingly, they had been out of contact for a few months. According to his sister Sherry, up until May 2015, everything was normal. On a regular basis, he was doing his normal things, hunting, fishing, and kept in contact with our brother who lived close to his Bowling Green apartment. Then one day out of the blue, he packed up his belongings, quit his job, and had his mail forwarded to another address, and just left. Sherry said they filed a missing persons report after they found out he had just fled and were worried as he had recently gotten divorced. For a month, the Rasco family waited for any news, and in June, he was found safe and sound in Washington State. Randy made it clear that he didn't want to speak to his family at that time and wanted to be alone. As painful as it was, his family respected his boundaries and assured him they would welcome him back with open arms whenever he was ready. For the next few months, it's believed that Randy traveled all around the U.S., all while maintaining his privacy and secrecy. His family didn't know that anything was wrong until the Mammoth Cave National Park Rangers contacted them to let them know that his car had been found abandoned. With this second disappearance, his family hoped that there would be a positive resolution. But sadly, Randy Rasco is still missing. Search crews, volunteers, and even the Civil Air Patrol all joined in on the search for Randy, scouring the over 53,000 acres of land in the park. Despite their best efforts and multiple searches, no sign of Randy has ever been found, and his car is the only clue we have in terms of his mysterious disappearance. Randy Rasco is described as a white male, 6'2" tall, with black hair, hazel eyes, and a slim, athletic build. Anyone with any information is asked to please contact the Mammoth Cave National Park at 270-758-2180. Catherine Van Alst. 8-year-old Catherine Van Alst disappeared from Devil's Den State Park near Arkansas's Ozark National Forest when she and her family were camping. Catherine apparently was playing with her brothers when she wandered off and got lost. What makes Catherine's disappearance remarkable is she was found 6 days later. When found, she was wandering the woods and was eerily calm. University of Arkansas student Porter Chadwick was part of the search party that found Catherine. He told the Pittsburgh Press that when he found her, he walked stoically out of a cave and just said, "Here I am." Many other hikers have gotten lost in that part of the Ozarks and haven't been as lucky as Catherine. A grown woman was lost there for 17 days and died just 50 yards from the road. How did Catherine survive in the woods for 6 days? Did someone take her only to return her 6 days later? Or is there an explanation to this story that we simply can't comprehend? Either way, someone or something might just be lurking in Devil's Den. Kenny Veach. 47-year-old Kenny Veach mysteriously disappeared in the Mojave Desert in Nevada on November 14, 2014. Kenny was hiking near Area 51 and was looking for cave systems and mine shafts. Kenny has uploaded several videos to his YouTube channel under the username Snakebit McGee, where he describes entering a cave with an M-shaped opening. He wrote in one comment, "That ain't nothing. I'm a long-distance hiker. One time during one of my hikes out by Nellis Air Force Base, I found a hidden cave. The entrance to the cave was shaped like a perfect capital M. I always enter every cave I find, but as I began to enter this particular cave, my whole body began to vibrate. Suddenly, I became very scared and hightailed it out of there. That was one of the strangest things that ever happened to me." Now, these videos gained popularity following his mysterious disappearance, and in these videos, he does indeed talk about how his whole body vibrated and he felt scared upon entering this mysterious M cave. Armed with a gun and a camera this time, Kenny headed back out to the M cave on November 10th, 2014, hoping to get a better look inside. However, Kenny never returned home. Although he was a very experienced hiker and outdoorsman, Kenny rarely took a map or GPS device with him on his hikes. According to his family, on the day of his disappearance, he told them that he would only be gone for a short overnight trip. But then when he didn't return home, they immediately called the police. Police, volunteers, and search and rescue teams all scoured the area where Kenny was last known to have been, and on November 22nd, 2014, volunteers found Kenny's phone. According to those volunteers, the trail went cold soon after they located his phone, and there have been no signs of Kenny ever since. At the time of this episode, the mysterious disappearance of Kenny Veach is very much alive in true crime and paranormal circles, but it appears that we are still no closer to uncovering the truth.
Awesome stuff. Thank you so much, Steve Stockton, with Tales Untold and Missing Persons Mysteries. Definitely want to go to his YouTube channel. Those are two different channels, by the way. Tales Untold is a YouTube channel, and then also Missing Persons Mysteries, which is where this selection is from that we just listened to. And I kind of want to talk because we have about 10-15 minutes here before we go to break. Yeah, Browndorf, you're exactly right. So it's the M Cave. So I don't know if you guys, I mean, that story is, one that I had actually looked into and heard of years ago. He's a YouTuber, and I'll kind of read this little brief thing here because I wanted to see if they had any updated information. Apparently, he had been just a synopsis. He had been out in the near Area 51, and he came across this cave. He was hiking alone, and I guess he went back to find it again and ended up just disappearing essentially. So let me just read this here. The chilling story of how Kenny Veach disappeared while looking for a mysterious vibrating cave near Area 51. And this is courtesy to All That's Interesting. And this is written by Ribby Lyon. And this is as of March 11th of this year. Let me go ahead and read that here. So in 2014, YouTuber Kenny Veach set out to explore a mysterious M-shaped cave he had discovered near Nevada's Nellis Air Force Base in the Mojave Desert, which I live right near right now, based in the Mojave Desert, then mysteriously vanished, never to be seen again. And this happened on October 10th, 2014. So it's almost 10 years, right? 47-year-old solo hiker and YouTuber. He had a YouTube channel. I don't know if it's still up. You may be able to find it out there. YouTuber named Kenny Veach disappeared while hiking in the Mojave Desert, and he hasn't been seen since. The Veach had been searching for a strange vibrating cave, as the ad pops up, vibrating cave shaped like an M he'd stumbled upon earlier that year, not far from Area 51. Today, no one knows what might have happened to him, but his disappearance has sparked a number of bone-chilling conspiracy theories over the years. So Kenny Veach, a passionate adventurer and inventor. So born in 1967 in Las Vegas, Kenny Veach was an avid hiker known for his new YouTube channel, Snake Bit McGee. On this channel, he documented his days-long solo expeditions through the deserts of Nevada and California, highlighting his love for adrenaline-fueled adventures. During these hikes, he often collected items like animal bones and other curiosities, which he used to decorate his house. Shortly before his disappearance, Veach had reportedly left his job as a coffee company service technician to try his luck at becoming an inventor. During this time, he created what he claimed to be an improved version of a toilet paper holder and submitted his invention to the show Shark Tank. He also attempted to sell his house, but with an unusual condition. The buyer had to hire him as a caretaker and agree to let him continue to decorate the home in his own style. Unfortunately, no one took him up on the offer. But Veach's true passion was solo hiking in the Mojave and Great Basin deserts. He'd camp for days with just the basics, no GPS, compass, or maps. Occasionally, his girlfriend, Sharon Pilgrim, joined him on his adventures, but much of the time he'd hiked alone. Eventually, one of these adventures went horribly wrong. So the encounter with the M Cave. In June 2014, Kenny Veach took to the comment section of a video titled Son of an Area 51 Technician to relay a chilling story. In his post, he described a hidden cave he had found near Nellis Air Force Base, just south of the infamous Area 51, with an entrance shaped like a perfect capital M. As soon as he entered the cave, he claimed he felt unusual vibrations throughout his body, coupled with an indescribable fear. I always enter, this is a quote, I always enter every cave I find, but as I began to enter this particular cave, my whole body began to vibrate, end quote, he wrote. According to Nevada Magazine, quote, the closer I got to the cave entrance, the worse the vibrating became. Suddenly, I became very scared and hightailed it out of there. That was one of the strangest things that ever happened to me. He added, quote, I solo hiked across mountaintops that most people wouldn't dare to go. I have been in more caves than I can count. I play with rattlesnakes for fun. Crazy. But this one particular cave was beyond anything I had ever encountered. So the search for the cave begins. After Kenny Veach posted about his chilling M cave experience, a number of YouTube users responded with interest, encouraging him to return to the cave, document the hike, and provide evidence of his strange discovery. So, in October 2014, armed with a 9mm handgun, Kenny Veach attempted to find the M Cave again. However, in a video titled M Cave Hike, posted on October 18th, he admitted that he was unable to relocate the site. Said, quote, I found a tarantula, a tortoise, and a ram, but I could not find the cave, he wrote on social media, according to The Sun. Disappointed, YouTube users flooded the comment section, criticizing Veach for not proving his original claim. Many of them pushed Veach to go on another journey to find the M cave, but one comment in particular stood out. Quote, "No, don't go back there," the user wrote. "If you find that cave entrance, don't go in. You won't get out." Unfortunately, Veach didn't heed this ominous warning. Ominous warning. On the November 10th, Kenny Veach embarked once again on a desert hike to the Sheep Mountains, telling his loved ones he planned to return the next day. He never did. Kenny Veach's disappearance and the rescue efforts to find him. When Kenny Veach didn't return from his overnight hike, his girlfriend, Sharon Pilgrim, reported him missing. In November 2014, the search for Veach began. In the days following his disappearance, search and rescue teams explored an abandoned vertical mine shaft that had been featured in one of Veach's recent videos. There, they found the missing hiker's cell phone. His vehicle was discovered several miles away. Dave Cummings, the commander of the Red Rocket Search and Rescue in Las Vegas, commented on the find, stating, quote, "We found his cell phone close to a very vertical old mine shaft, and we can't find another trail. It doesn't mean that he's down the mine shaft, but we have tracked him as far as we can. We are having our other crews come in from the search areas." The trail had gone cold. Then a user introducing herself as Veach's girlfriend, Cheryl Pilgrim, left a comment on his M Cave hike video. She explained that Veach had struggled with his mental health for years and may have ventured into the desert the day with the intention of unaliving by unaliving, is what we'll say. "I want you to know that I do," quote, "I want you to know that I do not think Kenny had an accident. I believe he unalived. He battled depression for many years and would not take medication or see a doctor. He quit his job a little more than a year before he disappeared. The search for him was started within a couple of days of McCall. Over 30 search and rescue team members searched 3 different times on foot. 1 helicopter flyover was done, and there was no trace of Kenny or any of his camping things. Had Kenny Veach unalived himself, or was something else at play? Theories around Kenny Veach's fate. Kenny Veach's body has never been found. To this day, no one knows for sure what happened to him, though a number of chilling theories have emerged. Veach was often reckless on hikes. He was a man who claimed to play with rattlesnakes for fun. He regularly embarked on his multi-day desert journeys alone, exploring caves and abandoned mines in areas with little cell phone coverage. He reportedly didn't carry a map or compass, and his food and water supplies were minimal. Many have suggested that because of his recklessness, Veach might have gotten lost or injured and succumbed to dehydration or hypothermia. It's also conceivable that he hadn't encountered a wild animal. The Mojave Desert is home to rattlesnakes, mountain lions, and coyotes, and an encounter with any of them could have ended tragically. Veach could have died from exposure, fallen down a mine shaft, or been the victim of foul play. However, another theory suggests that the M Cave could be the entrance to a secret government facility. Veach had described the cave as being near Nellis Air Force Base and Area 51. Some conspiracy theorists believe he might have stumbled upon government secrets and that his disappearance was an attempt to keep him quiet. Others have theorized that Veach may have disappeared from an encounter with aliens. Then again, as his girlfriend suggested, Veach may have died from unaliving. Pilgrim wrote on YouTube that she believes he had intentionally left his cell phone behind so that no one could track his whereabouts. She also said that he hadn't brought his camera with him on the hike to the M Cave and, quote, had no intention of filming anything. Unfortunately, Veach's body was never found and no one has heard from him in 10 years. Whether he was abducted by aliens or perished somewhere out in the Nevada desert, his disappearance remains a head-scratching mystery. after reading The Tale of Kenny Beach. Okay, so that was it actually. Okay, so wow, right? When I first heard that story, it blew my mind because I was like, wow, this guy went missing. This is the whole time I was actually looking into Area 51. I was kind of planning the trip, which I did end up going to Area 51. But you hear stories about people hiking out there near Area 51. Some have crossed Area 51's borders, and without being caught. I forgot there's a story of the guy who hiked through. It took him a few days, but he hiked all the way up to pretty much the Area 51 base and hiked out, and then told a story afterwards, which was wild. But I remember the Kenny Beach case because of the element of them saying potentially this was an entrance to like a secret government facility, this M cave, mysterious M cave that no one else has ever found. There's been other people who have tried to retrace his steps, retrack his steps, and find this cave, right? They're looking for him, but they're really also trying to find this cave, and no one has been able to find it. So they're not sure if it was, if he was hoaxing, because when they asked him, as you heard in the article, in the YouTube video, to go back to the cave, when he got called out to do it, he went, he came back on his next video and said, I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it again. So a lot of people looked at that, was like, okay, did he ever really find this cave, or was he really telling the truth about this cave? But then others are saying, okay, if he was telling the truth about this cave, was this an entrance to a secret government facility, or was this some sort of alien hangout? That was what the speculation was. So it's like a mystery that'll never be solved, right? Unless someone finds his bones, or if someone finds this entrance to this mysterious M cave out there near Area 51. There's always been stories that, there's a lot of mine shafts out there. A lot of mining has taken place all around Area 51. So there's definitely underground tunnels for sure, just from mining. And there, some people have theories that those tunnels run to the base, right? Or run from the base to other locations. I don't know about it running all the way across the country. I think somebody said would run to like New Mexico or Dulce, the base in Dulce. I don't know about all that, but we do know for sure that there are caves down there from the miners when the caves were active. So who knows? I mean, maybe he did encounter a cave and he was taken, and just as we talked with our guests earlier today with Earlene and Shirlene, talking about Black people coming up missing and just people in general coming up missing, and being taken into, I guess what some people say is secret space programs. And I'm not saying any of that is true, because we don't know, right? We're just speculating. There's been stories out there, and then that's kind of where we'll leave that. So it's intriguing, interesting at the very least. There are a lot of videos out there. I'd say wait till after this show, obviously, till this show concludes before you go researching. But I'll tell you, the Kenny Beach rabbit hole is a deep one. I don't know. I don't know what became of him. You would think though, at some point over 10 years, with so many people that go out there and have searched for him purposely, and then people who just go out there for experiences and try to see UFOs or try to find other things, that at some point maybe something would have been found, but yeah, not at this time. Resident, maybe he was shot for violating the restricted area. Yeah, I mean, we know for sure the signs are on the gates that say deadly force can and will be used, and I've seen videos of people kind of violating that and crossing the line, and where these, what they call camo dudes out there at Area 51, they pull out, assault rifles on people. Crazy. So it's like, what are they hiding? And yeah, if he was by himself and it was on a back road somewhere where it wasn't, these are tourist places, but if he's on a back road where people don't go and he crosses the line, we don't know what happened, right? So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get ready to take a break. So you guys stick around, because we have some stuff regarding some comments Lue Elizondo made on Joe Rogan podcast that I think were pretty compelling. Just some things to talk about, and I want to point out. We'll do that and more right here on Spaced Out Radio. You guys don't go anywhere. Make sure you stick around. I'd love to hear what you have to say about it. We will be right back. All right, guys. We got, we don't have enough time for me to play a break. So, let's see. Yeah, I'm going to do some comments here as we wait for this here. Area 51 is in the building. Rob G always bringing the effing heat, never to sleep. You gotta trademark that, Area 51. You got to trademark that, man. Somebody's going to steal that from you, and you're going to be mad. Definitely. Always bringing the heat. We loved it. Pat Simi says, I've always wanted to go to the Lue Elizondo. I guess I could tell my Area 51 story real quick. I did go. So back before I moved down here to Southern California, I used to live in Sacramento up north, which is about 2.5 hours from Reno, like right off on the 80. So normally people from Sacramento, when they go to Las Vegas, they go down to Southern California, here to where I live, Bakersfield, and then they cross over from here and go over to Las Vegas. It's the normal route people take. Me, I'm one of those guys that likes to hit the back roads and travel the untraveled trails. So I'm like, I did the math on Google Maps, and I saw it was only like a 20-mile difference if you went the other way. So me, the adventurous guy that I am, I map it out, and I map out a really good route, and I go ahead and hit the road. I had already at this point been researching Area 51. I looked into a lot of Area 51 videos and the camel dudes who patrol the area and kind of how they don't like you to even get close. And there's all sorts of wild stories. It's the BLM land outside of Area 51. First of all, that's free land for us to, camp or do whatever we want. But what they do is they put sensors and things and tracking devices out there on BLM land, which is supposed to be illegal, but they do. And supposedly they have these on top of mountains, and then even in front of the little LEN, they have a weather station. It's supposed to be tracking the wind and things like that. It's a little tower right in front. It has these cameras on it. And the theory is that those cameras go to Area 51, so that when you come into town, when you get even close to Area 51, the town is Rachel, Nevada, they know you're there. And it's facial recognition software and all those things. So when you pull up to the little LEN, they already know that you're on your way, and they know that you're there. And then furthermore, once you hit that, you get to the black mailbox right on the extraterrestrial highway. There's a gravel road that takes you about 10 miles in, and you get to one of the gates of Area 51. So as you're going down that road, they have all sorts of vibrational sensors that pick up the vibrations from your car and all those things. So they know you're coming way before you even get there. And then when you get there, even though you're legal because you have not crossed the line, they still want to intimidate you. So they have these camel dudes in these white trucks, tinted windows. They're contractors, and they follow you around. They try to spook you off and scare you, right? But you can go right up to the line as long as you don't cross it. Some of the lines are unmarked. They're not like physical fences. They're just little posts. Some of them are like little ribbons that you could easily overlook and cross the line. So that's why I say with the Kenny Beach thing, it's very possible that he crossed the line that he didn't realize, because some of those, it's not a fence all the way around. It's just little sticks sometimes. And then you can lose track because the sticks may go up the hillside, but you may not realize what the actual line is. And if you step a toe over, you're in big trouble. And they have videos of where people have done that, and they came up rushing, jumping out the trucks, cussing and threatening people, pulling weapons out. What's in there, man? What do they not want you to see? Our adversaries could see Area 51 from space, so they get to see Area 51. We fund all these projects, but we can't even get a glimpse of something that we paid for. which I think is bananas. But we're going to be coming back from break here in just a moment. Thought that I'd share that with you. And I'm going back to Area 51. I didn't get to make it down to the fence because I was with my lady and she was scared. So as we were going down the gravel road, she's like, no, turn back. And I'm like, so I had to turn back. We went back to Vegas. But I told her that she owes me another one and that her excuse was the car we were in, the gravel, couldn't take the gravel. So we're going to go there in a truck and she's going to go with me. Oh, boy. Funny stuff. All right, here we are coming back 10 seconds. All right, everybody, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. This is actually hour 2.5. I think I said that an hour ago. What am I talking about? Definitely appreciate you guys coming back as we go ahead and get ready to get into the last stretch of the show. It is going to be a good one. I mean, I'm going to want some of your participation in this. Maybe you guys respond to some of this that we're about to listen to, but I wanted to go into Lue Elizondo and some of the things that he said on the JRE podcast, because Lue is everywhere right now. We've talked right here on this very show about the book and what our thoughts were on it, and I still stand by it. There's a lot, and let me say this before we actually get into the clips. I'm looking around and I can appreciate a skeptic. I love skeptic. My sighting, when I first had my sighting, before I ever sent it off to MUFON, I put it out on Twitter for the skeptics. I tagged skeptics. I tagged Nick West. I wanted skeptics to look at my sighting and kind of so we could have that conversation. As I said before, skeptics with open minds is what I appreciate. And that way we can both kind of spitball and figure out what's going on. What is this, right? So with that being said, we had a situation where Lue Elizondo came out with this book. The stuff he said in the book, a lot of people looked at it. Skeptics were like, oh, he didn't really say anything. It's the same old same. You guys are buying, being sold the same thing that you've heard before. And you heard me already say, yeah, it's the same story, but it's deeper than that. It goes deeper. And it just showed me that either one, skeptics didn't read the book, or two, a lot of these skeptics are clinging at last minute. They're clinging for anything they can to kind of fuel their argument for, why these things aren't real. And then I'll say this too. Another thing is that because I go to these skeptic channels and shows and I watch because I want to see the skeptic opinion, right? Because I can appreciate it. But what I'm finding out is that, they love to say how ufology is a cult. They hang on words of like Sean Kirkpatrick, who says, oh, this is a cult. It's like religious based sort of thing. And I told you the other day, the way that I feel about that is, yes, there is a definitely on the believer end of this, a religious side to ufology, which are just the believers who don't need any evidence, who just believe anything that's said or anything they're told, no critical thinking. Then you have a believer that's open-minded and can be shown, okay, this may not be what it is, and can understand that. So, right. So we're in that little thing right there, but I'm understanding that these skeptics are so closed-minded and they are scratching and searching for anything to kind of keep their argument going. But it's a beautiful thing to see because it's showing me that they're running out of fuel and there's nothing really left for them to cling on to or use. They're making the silliest things. And then they're pointing to like they're attacking personal things about Lue Elizondo. Their arguments are all, based on if they like Lue, they didn't like Lue did this, they didn't like Lue said that. And they're doing that with all the people that come out. They're trying to pick personal things about these people. And it's like, okay, where's the real argument? But they call ufology a cult. And I looked at the skeptical side and I realized how much they were a cult. They're skeptics against and said UFOs aren't real. However, they congregate together to talk about UFOs, which is so funny to me, right? If you don't believe UFOs are real, if you don't believe that they're here visiting, then why are you guys getting together to talk about UFOs? Granted, it's getting together to talk about UFOs to say they're not real, but still, you are obsessed. You're being obsessed and driven with an obsession to still talk about UFOs. So you got to kind of look at that. That's a cult-like mentality to me, if you want to look at it. So I just want to say that because something that was on my mind. But let me go ahead and get into some of these quotes that I have from Lue Elizondo. Let me bring up the little slide because it shows, gives you a visual. For the radio audience out there, it's just a slide of Lue Elizondo's appearance on the Joe Rogan show. And I'm going to play a couple of these clips, right? Fair use. They're only like a minute each, and it's audio only. So hopefully we should be okay with this. And let me go ahead and go with the first one. Let me actually preface it. So Lue Elizondo talked about, Joe Rogan asked him if there was any sightings that he was aware of that maybe we hadn't heard of that were compelling. And he goes into talking about a USO, which is a underwater submersible object. So it's just a UFO that's underwater. And he talks about a story that I hadn't really heard before, but just the visual of it is mind blowing. So I'm going to go ahead and play that right now, and then we'll talk about it after the clip. So here we go.
There is a video, high resolution video of, I can't say what platform it was taken from. I can't say where it was taken from, okay. But an object that, do you know how large an offshore oil derrick is? They're huge, right? Yeah. They're almost like a small city, right? They're like one city block. They're huge. They're enormous things. There is a video that shows one of these objects underwater that goes by. The speed was calculated between 450 and 550 knots underwater, and it was bigger than the offshore derrick that it was passing, because you could see in the video the offshore derrick, and you could see this thing zip right by it.
Jesus is right. Did you hear what he said? So an object underwater that was going up to 500 knots zipped by an oil derrick. And if you don't know what those are, they're the offshore oil platforms that are huge. And I actually have a picture of one that I wanted to bring up so you can get an idea. But you heard what he said. He said this thing that was bigger than the oil derrick on video that he's privy to zipped past this oil derrick, and it was bigger than the oil derrick, like the size of a small city. I'm going to show you what one looks like so you can get a visual. And for everyone out there in radio, these oil platforms out there, if you're familiar with the movie, I think Armageddon, if you know Armageddon, they were working on one of these things out there in the middle of the ocean. You see them in the Gulf of Mexico, other places. But I'm going to show our video viewers here what that looks like so you can get an idea. And this is what they look like, right? Let me go full screen on that. This is huge. So imagine that. That is a huge prospect. So he said something bigger than this, going up to 500 knots underwater on video. He couldn't say the platform that it was taken on, obviously, because it then reveals trade secrets and things of that nature. But imagine that. Something bigger than this that is underwater going 500 knots. What do you think about that? Let me look at, are there any comments on that? Are there any comments on that at all? Yeah, Magneticus. I thought minute missiles were big until I seen one in real life. It was like a tiny hot dog in the hallway. Right. Okay, now we're talking, think of a submarine. Submarines are huge. This is way bigger than a submarine, lengthwise and widthwise as well. So would you consider something bigger than this, the zipping underwater? It's got to be some sort of mothership, right? Because why else would it be that big, right? Where if it's not like a mothership holding a bunch of other ETs, it's holding probably other, like smaller ships or some of the little probe things that we see that are released around the world. And then it's like, okay, why? What are they doing under there? You got to ask yourself, what are you doing under there? And I know Richard Dolan is, writing a book about USO. So I'm hoping he maybe has attacked the story, or since he's still working on it, on the book, that he's heard this story now, since Lue talked about it on Rogan, and he kind of looks into it, maybe includes this one in his book, because I hadn't heard of anything that big underwater, that had been cited, or that our government has knowledge of. And Elizondo goes on to talk about how, obviously the videos which we've heard him say before, the videos that have come out, the gimbal, go fast, those videos, the Tic Tac videos, that those are obviously low hanging fruit, and like some of the ones that were okay to release. But there's 4K video, high definition. Imagine what those videos look like. Imagine what's being depicted on those videos. Like, can we see one of those videos, please? Can we please see one? Just show it. You don't even have to make a statement with it. Just show the video. You don't even have to say ETs are real. We have spaceships. We have bodies. You don't even have to say that. Just let the video come out and let the video do the talking. So somehow, some way, the same way Christopher Mellon was able to obtain these videos, in that famous meeting in the Pentagon parking lot, I'm hoping somebody else understands that if they're able to facilitate something like that and bring the 4K video, no need for a statement with it, just bring the 4K video so we can, get a good idea of what it is that we're dealing with here. So thought that was definitely an interesting part of that interview. Just one that made me stop and be like, whoa, what did he just say? Okay. So let me see. Magneticus was a radar or laser used to clock speed. He didn't really go into it. I guess there's the methods. It goes into how they track that. And then if they say, how they track the speed, he just said what the speed was, which is bananas underwater, 500 knots. And they said, which I didn't get the clip of, but he said during the interview that, there's been submarines. I guess he asked some of these submarine operators who said that they come in contact with weird things under there. And he asked them, what do you do when you encounter them? And the submarine drivers or operators said they just go around, right? And so that's a whole nother thing. So I think USOs and I can't wait for Dolan's book, because I know he's doing good research on that. And I really hope he's coming with the goods on the actual details of the story. So rituals, I mean, it could be disinfo. I mean, all we can do is what if you find out, Richard Wilson, that it's not disinfo though? What if you find out that it's true? Then that means you were the disinfo, or the perspective is the disinfo, because you gotta, if you think Lue's out there spreading disinformation, which he could be, we don't know. But then at the same time, if we find out the stuff is true, then that means everyone else with the opinion that it was disinfo really were the disinfo agents. And that's what I say about the skeptics who, a lot of us experiencers already know this stuff is here. So for them to be out there saying that there's nothing to this stuff, they end up being the disinformation agents. They're being used as that tool, but they don't realize it until there's the moment of clarity when everybody realizes what's going on. Then those people who were saying, oh, there's nothing here, they're going to realize that they were the tools that were being used to disinform the public. It's going to be a crazy day, right? So I wouldn't get too hung up on the disinfo stuff, because it could literally be Lue being disinfo. It could literally be skeptics being used as tools for disinfo, or people who don't believe in Lue's story being used as disinfo, as reverse psychology. I mean, come on, man. There's a rabbit hole to go down there, and we'll do that one day. But let me jump into this other clip here, which I thought was pretty compelling as well. So, yeah, the oil derrick wrap your mind around that one. I definitely recommend go watching that full interview, but this is the other clip. This is one that I wanted to get into, and I have a guest that we're supposed to have booked here shortly, who will probably look at this clip again when he comes on. But it's about essentially the UFO intent. So once again, this is only about a minute clip, so Joe Rogan, don't flag us for this. We're just trying to give commentary and kind of expand the view on this particular clip. But here we go.
We cannot prove that they're not here to do something bad, but what we do know is that they can interfere. They're very interested in our military capabilities, and they have interfered with our nuclear capabilities, right? Mm-hmm. From a military perspective, that looks an awful lot like something we call IPB, initial preparations of the battle space, or perhaps even ISR, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. Whenever we're going to go into a foreign country and invade, we do long-range surveillance. We want to know how the enemy operates, how they react. So even if there's a 2% chance, 5% chance that these things are here to do something malevolent, right? Mm-hmm. Then we probably should not tip our hands to the fact that we are aware of it publicly, because what happens the moment that the bad guys in a foreign country find our surveillance team over the border? We've got 12 hours. We got to invade, because the element of surprise is now over. So some may feel in the government the mere fact of acknowledging this, if there is some sort of malintent, may push up artificially a clock that exists somewhere for these things to say, okay, the foolish humans are now, the cat's out of the bag. They know we're here. We need to go in now.
Yeah. So he said this again, obviously. He said this in the book, that specifically, and I'll read it again because I don't want to misquote, but a person highly placed in the U.S. government, person who knew the truth the government has withheld all these years, asked him, do you realize that talking about this issue so openly, you are accelerating the chances that we will be invaded? And so he gives that perspective of what the potential intent is, that he looks at this and he recognizes, some of the characteristics of the phenomenon, because I'm sure as the leader of ATIP and a lot of the stuff that he looked at, that he's seen patterns and traces. We had our guest here on the After Hours, Tom Conwell, who, if you go back in the archive, I think it was back in February, I just aired it on my channel, which is at Mr. Rob G YouTube, where he shows a map that he curated. That essentially he took all the sightings and encounters and marked them on a map with little pins. And you saw a lot of clusters of activity on the coastlines. And, just like Lue said, preparing the battlefield for a potential invasion, I guess, essentially is what it could be looked at, and not saying that's what's going to happen. He's essentially just saying that it's something you should be aware of and notice the characteristics and potentially prepare for something like that. Because why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you be prepared, right? Instead of looking at this as love and light and no, there's nothing bad that could ever happen. And then the day comes and they slap something bad on your lap, you're not going to be prepared to do anything. So just having the mindset, the reactive mindset, right, to kind of look at this, I think is key. But just the traits, characteristics of what they're seeing. And then, like I said, with Tom Conwell, that map with all the stuff on the coastlines, we know in war, and a lot of people say don't try to put the human experience into the alien experience. It may not translate, and I understand that. But at the same time, just kind of looking at it, we have submarines underwater off the coast of adversarial targets or interests, or the flip side, we have subs right off the coast of allies as far as being in range to protect. So you could look at it as either or. And the thing is a good thing or a bad thing, but the thing is to look at it as both, right? To consider both sides of it. Because coming into it, like I said, you got to have an open mind. And if you do have an open mind, then you can be open to looking at both sides. is maybe they're in the water doing zipping past oil derricks, in an effort to protect our interests. Or if there's, you can look at it as potentially they're strategically sitting off in wait for something that they may want to do this nefarious. And I don't lean either way because I don't know, and I don't think anyone knows. And that's kind of where maybe the military might have, or the government might have more information, because we're on disclosure, but being that the government is and the DOD and Pentagon is more apt to looking and searching for national security threats and things of that nature, that maybe they have the eye for certain, certain suspicious activity, right? And maybe it lines up with things that kind of ring alarms or ring bells. And I would want to be alerted of that. I think it's cool to know, right? Because I always say, and it's going to be a tough one, because hopefully they're using some of that black budget money that we know they've taken, have disappeared from the budget. And I hope they're doing more than just trying to reverse engineer craft that they caught. Hopefully they're doing something to implement some sort of planetary defense in the event that something malevolent is on the horizon, right? It's just something that we have to do. You got to be prepared. And I'll say this, I used to look at Doomsday Preppers 10 years ago when the show was popular. I used to watch it, but I used to look at it like, oh man, they're preparing for the collapse of the economy. They're preparing. And I used to think the things that they were preparing for, prepping, was so far out that they would never happen. I'm like, that'll never happen. The society is too strong, which was a disillusion, because as we saw in just this little pandemic situation, we saw everything collapse within days. So the idea with that, and what it made me understand, is that it's better to be prepared than to not be prepared. What does it hurt to be prepared? So you got to look at both sides of that. And we're going to get ready to kind of shut this down. I just thought I'll jump into that. I thought it was some cool things to kind of look at with Lue Elizondo, some things that he said on the Joe Rogan podcast, which, again, he's making the rounds. Hopefully we get Lue Elizondo here on Spaced Out Radio. I know Dave's working on it because I know Dave's going to pose some awesome questions. And if we get him, maybe I could come in on like hour 2, or just come in and ask a couple questions that I may have. But with that being said, we go on to thank our super chatters for the night, who are CS and Wes Decker. We definitely thank you for your support here. We thank everybody for coming on out tonight as well, right? We definitely want to thank everybody tuning in from around the world. We totally appreciate you tuning your frequency to Spaced Out Radio, where we do what we do best. And what's that, you ask? Guys, we own the night. We always own the night. Stay curious. Stay open-minded, right? Share this show. Invite skeptics in. We need each other, right? So definitely want to thank you guys for all coming. Awesome show tonight. Thank you to our guests tonight, Earlene and Shirlene, UFO twins. Brand new perspective. We love it. We want to thank, I guess that's it, right? I want to thank everybody else for showing up, and I appreciate it. Glad that I could do this for you tonight. We will see you next time. You guys take care. As Bumblefoot gets us up out of here, let's go.
Never say never again.
right. And that's a wrap. That is a wrap. Definitely want to thank everybody for coming on out. And it was a pleasure doing this for you guys. Let's keep the conversation going. Let's keep our minds open. And I will see you guys next time. I'm going to go ahead and get us out with our super sick outro. You guys all take care.
Hey everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have spaced out radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. spacedoutradio.com, shop there today, and make yourself look good.
Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution.